to get rid of it. I know a place it could go. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Damage Report. I am John Iadarola, and you know what's not funny? The news. It's very serious, and so we've brought a serious co-host who I was hoping in the time that I was doing this intro would put down the camel, but here is Brett Erlich and his camel toes. There he goes.
John, I don't know if anyone heard this during our pre-show discussion because I'm pretty sure our mic is closed. See, first, but John told me that I can't like eat meat and cheese in the morning, but he's saying camel toe this early.
It was an Arrested Development reference. I was recently rewatching it, but anyway,
that's the only place that term exists. Right here, look at the two different colors of Lumpy. This is it's not that Lumpy is sun bleached, it's that Lumpy is covered in dust.
Okay, well, I will gladly take that camel off your hands if that's what you need. But anyway, Brett, thank you for being here. I'm not as excited now after what just happened, but still, I think it'll be a good day. We've got a bunch of news for you. So if you're joining us, thank you, regardless of where you're at. It would be great though if you were to hit the like button and share the stream so that people know we're live. As always, I will remind you that while notifications exist, they are a fickle thing in the best of times. So helping us out by sharing the stream would be great. And over the course of the next 90 minutes, we're gonna be going through a couple different things. I'm very excited for a few. One is I have been, I think, pointing out for a couple of weeks now that those who are speaking out against the vaccine are doing it very vaguely. They don't want to say anything specific. They don't want to ask any specific questions. And I have discovered a great example of why that is. So we will be getting to that in a little bit. I am also excited to show to you the worst sentence of the week. Maybe that'll become a recurring thing. We've got some hard data on the pandemic of the unvaccinated that people have been talking about. More analysis of how that's spreading, how bad it is, and we've got some visualizations for you. It is way worse than I thought it was. And then there's bad stuff for Kavanaugh, Trump conning his followers, and more stuff besides. And of course, as always, it being Friday, we are going to be choosing our garbage people of the week. There is still time though for you to go to the community tab on our YouTube channel and vote for the community garbage person of the week. So that is available for you. Excited to find out what that is. Brett, is there any other, I tried to come up with what the term is for camels and other related animals. Dromedaries, is that what they're called? Any dromedary related news or anything?
No, but there are tons of Bactrian updates, which are the same size, way hairier, and twice as many bumps.
I've never heard of this animal. I like it.
John, stop the presses.
What?
Right now on our Twitch channel.
What?
BC Trumpet gifted 5 subs 10 times.
I thought you misread it at first. BC Trumpet, thank you very much. That is crazy.
Subs. Wow.
Thank you. That is doing more work to grow the community today than either Brett or myself will do. So thank you, BC Trumpet. I do appreciate that. By the way, speaking of growing the community, we have sadly on our YouTube channel run right up against the limit, the hard cap on how many emojis we can have, because as of today, we now have both Ben Dixon and Rashad Ritchie emojis. For us to get another emoji, which is going to be our rainbow dragon, we need about 50 to 60 of them. So if you've been thinking about becoming a member on YouTube, today would be a great day to do that. Thank you to Mike Lenwell for becoming a member, just did at tier 1 and gets us one person closer to that rainbow dragon emoji.
That's awesome.
Now that exactly, it's very nice. Now that said, Brett, are you ready to do some news?
Now I am.
Okay, good. Yeah,
I had to heave that news sigh. Do you do the news sigh, John? I feel like you probably do the news sigh. Just the this stuff.
I'm actually, one of my quirks I've been told is that I sigh a lot, actually. It's not a good thing, I need to get it under control.
No, but anyway. But people who know you know that when you sigh, it doesn't mean you're exasperated about what they just did.
Yes, it's just a more general thing. I'm in a fugue. Anyway, let's.
You have generalized anxiety.
No, it's not generalized right now, Brett. It's very specific and targeted, and it's against you. Now let's do this. Okay. Anyway, oh man, I love to have Brett back on the show in some ways. Okay, so let's do this. Wait, Overflow just became a member. It's here too. Thank you, Overflow.
Leave it up. Leave that B-roll up.
Closer. Look how happy Biden is that Overflow became a member. Oh, we've almost got the new emoji. Anyway, okay, with that, let's do this. Joe Biden would have you believe that he gets that a war on democracy is happening and he is going to be your ally in fighting against this Republican-led effort. In a fiery speech in Philadelphia last week, he warned that the GOP effort was the quote, most significant test of our democracy since the Civil War. But if you've been watching this show and you know my sarcasm tone, you know that this is not a positive thing about Joe Biden because unfortunately, while he's been giving a couple of good speeches, there's still a lot of reason to be concerned that he's not going to take it seriously and he's not going to do what's necessary to stop the Republicans from effectively taking away your vote. Voting rights advocates around the country fear that the Biden administration, currently focused on a bipartisan infrastructure deal and an ambitious spending proposal, has largely accepted the Republican restrictions on voting as baked in and is now dedicating more of its effort to juicing Democratic turnout. And to that end, they've been putting some pressure on him. We're gonna get to that in a second, this letter that went out. But I wanna show to you the worst sentence of the week. This is coming from the New York Times. In private calls with voting rights groups and civil rights leaders, White House officials and close allies of the president have expressed confidence that it is possible to, quote, out-organize voter suppression, according to multiple people familiar with the conversations. And I'm not mad at the New York Times on that. I'm mad at everyone else that made that sentence possible because that sucks so much. You're gonna out-organize it. Oh, I see, around the country, they're making it so people can't vote or it's as difficult as possible. They're specifically targeting certain populations. If you're a non-white voter, good luck in a lot of these states, but don't even worry about it. You guys can just organize around it. Brett, that blows so bad.
This is really gonna appeal to the Marie Kondo voter. Be like, does this voter suppression spark joy? If not, organize around it. Nobody in their right, like this drips with stupid, like everyone take your shoes off and keep your socks on and sit in a circle on the carpet. Let's brainstorm ideas for messaging in the Democratic Party. Like that's the BS. Like 4 people are tasked with this. None of them have met human beings besides each other before. And they're like, wouldn't that be great? We can out-organize voter suppression, run with that. Who is rah-rah, sis boom bah excited about that kind of messaging? The answer is no one.
No one, it's terrible. And look, some ask for comment afterwards, say, well, that's just one of the things that we said. That's not like totally our message or whatever, but you're not doing anything. So I am gonna judge you by the things you say on these calls. And here is the thing about that sentence, the worst sentence of the week. It's not even that in all cases, it can't be true. I mean, after all, thanks to years of amazing organization and activism in Georgia, these 2 Senate seats were won. So that's true. But even in that case, it was such a narrow thing. And I'll remind you, it's more difficult to vote today than it was a year ago in Georgia. So unlikely that organizing would have prevailed with the current system. And much more importantly, the reason they do the suppression is to make it as difficult as possible. And so in many places, no, you're not gonna be able to out-organize it. But that's not even the worst thing. Even if it was true, even if that wasn't a horrible passing of the Democratic buck, wouldn't it be easier to win if you had the great organizing and you weren't suppressed? Why are you surrendering on something so goddamn fundamental? Something that you, again, in speeches pretend that you care about, but you're willing to throw to other people. Really easy to say you can out-organize it when you're not the person that's gonna have to be doing that. That you're not the person that has been doing that. Joe Biden wasn't on the ground 3 years ago in Georgia, whatever, laying that groundwork. He wasn't going to the churches every weekend trying to make sure that people were excited to vote. None of his aides were either. It wasn't them. So yes, no matter how bad Biden or the Republicans screw over these organizers, They're gonna keep trying as hard as they can. But shouldn't they be able to expect that the president they got elected would at least give them a bit of an assist along the way? It's just, it's so bad.
Another thing that is very important to mention about why this is such a dumb idea is that many of the best organization efforts around voting are explicitly themselves tactically targeted by these new voter restrictions. Yeah. So the thing where you send someone around and you get souls to the polls, all of that is directly under attack. All of the tactics that have been developed as a result of voter suppression since the Civil War that he's talking about, these the ones that have worked are being shot down explicitly due to these new laws that they're putting into effect in all these different states. And at the same time, bolstered by this horrible sentence, or bolstering this issue, is Biden and company not doing the things, organizing, I guess, legislatively to overcome these new voting laws, right? Like, there's a lot that they really need to do that they haven't done to fight that. And that's what's also frustrating. And I'm not saying, I don't even think they should, quote, get rid of the filibuster. I think they need to bring back the filibuster.
Yeah,
because right now the way that cloture works is no one's going to talk about anything unless you invoke cloture, you do a cloture vote. It has not, and then after that, people talk for hours and hours and hours and hours. I think you force them to talk for hours and hours, and then you have a vote. Period. That's it. That's how the original that's how like the second generation of filibuster was.
Yeah, and we're in like the fifth or whatever. And they've said that they support that. Even Manchin has said at times that he supports that and then forgets. And it's just so insulting. Now, in response to what we would like them to do, the president and his advisors have repeatedly pointed out that he does not have the votes within his own party to pass federal voting legislation and does not have the power to unilaterally roll back the filibuster, even if he supported doing so. So, okay, good. So that's another excuse that you have. Okay, so let's respond to that. So there's two different parts of that. One is that they don't have the votes to pass the federal voting legislation, and the other is they don't have the votes to unilaterally roll back the filibuster. Okay, so to the first point that you don't have the votes to pass the federal voting rights legislation, whether it's the For the People Act or it's the Lewis Voting Act, then stop pretending that you're going to do that. If you've totally given up, Biden with Don Lemon this week was like, we're going to pass the John Lewis Voting Act. Well, then why are you saying you don't have the votes to actually pass it? Like, so it sounds like you're lying to us in public and then being a little bit more honest, if cowardly, in private. And I understand the fight will continue or whatever, but saying you don't have the power to unilaterally roll back the filibuster. Okay, no, I get that. You have to get some senators on board. Maybe do that. Maybe actually do that. You are, after all, the GD president. Why did you become the president? To just do what other Democrats will allow you to do? You just float free of this whole thing, untethered to anything, no responsibility, no power to influence whatever? Like, is he the ghost in the first half of the movie Ghost? Touch something. You're the president. Have an influence on this process, or at least try. If he spent the next year like setting Joe Manchin on fire rhetorically, and it failed, okay, that sucks, but at least it sucks because of Manchin, not because of you. Right now, it sucks because of Joe Biden, and he should at least be trying. Kyrsten Sinema is ripe for a primary, and whether she ever gets one, you better believe that she's at least worried about it. So Joe Biden, start talking about that. You don't have the votes, get the goddamn votes. This is how you do it. Donald Trump, he has his reign of terror or whatever, which I think is mostly unearned, that he uses via Twitter, or at least when he did, to get everything he wanted. I'm not asking you to do that, but I'm saying these core things that you have promised, you can use the tools that are available to you. You're acting as if you're not even familiar that they exist. Anyway, final thoughts, Brett.
Final thoughts on this are, when you invoke Donald Trump's name, how dare you shame? But when you do, you remind me that Donald Trump said a lot of stuff himself in his election campaigns and his constant campaigning ever since he originally took office. But the things that got passed are the things that people in his party's power structure cared about. Yeah. That's all. And you have to look at things that end up passing. And when you see those things, you yourself can determine what that party in power actually cared about. Yeah. And the Democrats obviously don't care about this enough. They, and in that eternal struggle that we put up there as potentially being like equal on both sides, but it's not. That struggle between, staying in power and campaigning to stay in power. The Democrats seem happy to just continue to campaign to stay in power and not actually pass legislation that if they really meant it, they could put in place. And that's what's so frustrating. And the additionally frustrating thing is the time is absolutely positively now. Now is when you need to do it, because with these additional voting restrictions, yes, you can absolutely organize to try to mitigate some of these effects of these voting laws. But if you do put in place something like a federal minimum for what constitutes, the right to vote, that would be far more successful in solidifying your own party's control for generations to come.
Yeah. We have this limited time. We have the highest stakes imaginable. Do it. Do something. Or if you are so annoyed at this leftist pressure, give us something else that you can actually give us via executive orders. But you're not doing any of it. Anyway, I'm gonna sigh, Brett, at the news. But for now, we're gonna take a first break. When we come back, we've got some COVID-related news. It's gonna be a little bit of fun and a little bit depressing. We've got that for you after this. Hello, everybody. First of all, I wanted to thank Hardwood and Chub Toad for their YouTube memberships. Thank you for that, getting us closer and closer to that rainbow emoji. Much appreciated. Let's jump into the super chats and things like that. There was a super chat that came late yesterday in the show that we didn't get to that I want to read. It was very generous from Sean Carley, who said, "John, thank you for your voice. Hearing my discontent spoken in clearer language than I speak is refreshing. Also, is Wombat Dragon taken? It is not. And you are now Wombat Dragon. Thank you, Sean Carley, for that. Much appreciated. Looks like Overflow has also become a member at tier 2. Thank you for that. Again, getting us closer to the emoji, and you get access to the top 10 list as well as those emojis, including the Ben Dixon and the Rashad Ritchie. I know that they're not on the show today, but feel free to flood the chat with it anyway. Okay, let's see. Andrew says, "Hello, John and Brett. Sunday is my birthday. So may I please have a birthday shout out? Also, camels are ungulates." Thank you. Learning something new every day.
What does that even mean?
I think it means camels or creatures of the sort that a camel. That's what he was just saying. That's the fact.
I thought alpacas and camels were all camelids. I wrote it in a joke about a camelid, alpaca surfing.
So I think that doesn't necessarily mean that the joke isn't good. It doesn't help, but
oh my God.
Anyway, okay, so Jen P, welcome to tier 2 YouTube membership. Thank you so much. Kim Wolf became a member at tier 1. We are racing towards that rainbow emoji, and each of you will be able to take a little bit of ownership on the rainbow dragonness if we can get to it. Anyway, thank you. Okay, Daniel says, this is so true. Daniel says, "John, listen to this podcast. Also, John, look at this graph, you guys." Yeah, I get that. I apologize. I try to make specific what's on it, and it's coming, by the way. We got a lot of graphs coming up. So if you're on the podcast, love you, but these are gonna be rough times for you.
Nice.
Anyway,
John intentionally making it hard for his audience to watch his show. Nice.
They're not watching, they're listening. So this is on them. No, I'm gonna explain it. Don't even worry about it. Gunidli says, "Joe Biden is the keymaster and Manchin is the gatekeeper. This metaphor sucks. Go Cleveland Guardians." I liked your metaphor. I was okay with it, honestly. But go Cleveland Guardians. It's a good name. Like, it's a perfectly fine name. There's reason for Cleveland to have chosen it. It sort of ties in with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, why wouldn't you like it? I don't know. You like sports.
We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about it in Garbage People, just to tease a little bit. Okay. More importantly, ungulates. This is BS because you can't put this many different animals in this clade or grand order. It includes odd-toed ungulates such as horses, rhinoceroses, and tapirs, which are the best animal. Please Google tapirs right now, TAPIR. And then even-toed ungulates such as cattle, pigs, giraffes, camels, sheep, deer, and hippopotamuses.
Yeah, they all seem to share a good bit. It's branching.
But for giraffes, buffaloes, orca.
Dude, take it up with evolution. Anyway, Radical Trans Girl became a tier 2 member. Thank you so much, Radical Trans Girl. It's very nice of you. Okay, we're gonna have more camel news for you in a little bit, but we're running low on time. So let's see. Elder Mind Pulse subscribed for 7 months on Twitch. Thank you so much. Venerable Bug for 3 months. Very nice of you. Says, hey, oh, this is an older one. This is hey, John and JR. Unless they just wanted to say hi to JR on a Friday, but thank you for that. This might not have been updated. But anyway, more news coming up after this. Hey everybody, let's get back to the news. And I've actually been pretty excited for this one because it definitely confirms something I've been talking about throughout the week. So let's jump into this. There's been a persistent campaign in right-wing media against the vaccine, but generally it's not very specific. Sometimes in the independent circles it is, but on Fox News and on NewsMax, actually generally, the form that it comes in is we're not saying don't get the vaccine. We're not saying the vaccine will kill you. We're just doing a whole bunch of coverage that implies that there's something to be fearful about, something to be suspicious about. We're getting you to think about this less through a lens of public health and more about you being a patriot or whatever. And we have questions. That's the thing that always comes up. Tucker Carlson can't stop talking about the questions that he has. He never asks them, he just says that he has them. He's never specific. And that turns out to be a wise thing because when you go specific in your opposition to the vaccine, you can look like even more of a doofus. And we have an example of that. Newsmax had a doctor on, Angelina Farella, and here is what she had to say about the vaccine.
No, you know how you fight a pandemic and how you fight disease? You treat it. Why don't we try treating early? Why don't we do that? This is the first time ever that we don't have guidelines. Where are the guidelines from Mayo Clinic? Where are the guidelines from Hopkins? Where are the guidelines from your esteemed place, Dr. Schaffner? Where are they? What are we supposed to do? Why are we not treating these patients? You know, this is ridiculous, and it doesn't even have to be the controversial medication that is FDA approved for the last 50 or plus years. So we can treat this with albuterol, with budesonide, with prednisone, with azithromycin. We can use vitamin D, we can use zinc, we can use quercetin, we can use N-acetylcysteine. We can use all kinds of things to treat this virus. But you know what? There has been an absolute blackout on what primary care physicians can do to treat and get these patients well. That's how you crush a pandemic.
Okay, so there's a lot of nonsense there about vitamin D and zinc, and we will get to that. But she gave me what I've been asking for. I have been saying, just tell me what your questions are, and that kook asked some specific questions. So for instance, where are the guidelines from the Mayo Clinic? Well, here are the guidelines from the Mayo Clinic on coronavirus, how to diagnose it, how to treat it. It's all available on Google. I don't understand most of it. I'm not a doctor. I'm starting to question that she might not be either, but it is available freely. She said, where are the guidelines from Johns Hopkins? Well, here are the guidelines from Johns Hopkins. Again, it is a fundamental set of guidelines for the diagnosis and treating of coronavirus. She also said, Schaffner, who is a doctor who wants you to vaccinate, who was also on that Newsmax thing, she said, where's your places? Well, they do. She said, where should we treat people? Dr. Schaffner, why aren't you responding to that? Well, Vanderbilt University, they have a section on their website about using monoclonal antibodies as a treatment for coronavirus. All of this, I'm not Ken Klippenstein. Nobody leaked this secretly to me. This is all on the internet. All of these places, and I'm sure the CDC and the WHO and all these other organizations have a bunch of information about how to diagnose it, about how to treat it. That's all available. And she is a doctor a year and a half into a pandemic that apparently didn't even Google if that stuff was available. So the question of why don't we have guidelines? No, we do actually. Why aren't we treating them? No, we are actually. What do you think is happening in these hospitals? These very specific questions are dumb as hell. And that is why people like Tucker Carlson, who are better at the grift, don't ask those questions. He will never allow himself to be pinned down with a question like, where's Johns Hopkins guidelines? Because they're out there. So he will just say, I have questions, whereas she opens herself up to look like a moron in that way.
Yeah, Also adding to this is the idea that they're bringing on, they found a doctor who will say what they want them to say.
Yeah.
And that's it. And that's one of those things that NewsMax does fantastic jobs about. Not only that, but they're not saying it. They're insulated from that. They learned their, legal liability issues by thanks to, people who make voting machines. And they're very young and they're figuring all this out, but they're also stumbling into other things that are utilized by other networks where they bring in something that is not hotly contested. Is it the subject they're talking about is not hotly contested, yet they trot in two doctors to present both sides of the issue. And they have, and to bring it to discuss issues, medical issues that disproportionately affect older individuals and folks with comorbidities. Did you see what her title was? She's a director of pediatrics.
Mm-hmm.
So they bring in, kids, doesn't affect kids as much, but they found someone to say that. Now, in terms of things that you can treat it with, I don't know. I don't know if there's a difference between what's on the website for the CDC in terms of their guidance on how to be treated for these things and the official guidance from the CDC to these doctors on how to treat it. But that doesn't mean that there aren't treatments for it and that people can't share medical information on how to treat people. But how is that part of this discussion? Yeah, and how is that part of this discussion from her and not get vaccinated? Yeah. And not like we have an emergency use authorization. That kind of information is already categorized as different from official FDA approval, but in this situation, it seems to be working.
Yeah.
And part of it is, I feel like she's focusing on lack of guidance in one specific way when everybody's in the trenches. All her colleagues are in the trenches dealing with this. And yeah, I'll take her, medical opinion under advisement, but I'm also going to take my doctor's medical opinion under advisement. Yeah. And all those things that I see on all those websites that you're showing, I assume I would trust when I talk to doctors about this who have themselves gotten vaccinated. I feel like that's most of the information I need to know. And also the people that are telling me that it's up to me whether I get vaccinated or not. I'm not seeing whether those folks are I'm not taking what they're telling me to do under advisement. I think what speaks volumes is when they're asked if they're vaccinated, they either say yes or I'm not gonna tell you. And I know for a fact that a lot of these folks are vaccinated. So those actions speak a lot louder than the words, especially when the words are motivated by some kind of monetary interest and some voting block interest to be lying to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and with her, I don't know. I don't know her. I don't know if she is vaccinated or whatever. I don't know to what extent she's being influenced by the fact that she's made a bit of a media career out of being one of the doctors who will say whatever crazy stuff you want about how you shouldn't get vaccinated. You should just take zinc or whatever. I do know that back in May, she was one of the doctors who testified before a Texas State Senate committee and said, we have in excess of 4,000 deaths and this vaccine has not been pulled yet, suggesting that the vaccine had killed 4,000 people at that point. But again, making unfounded, no evidence claims of thousands of people being killed doesn't stop you from being brought onto NewsMax. In fact, it might have been the thing that got her on their radar in the first place. So I don't know what her motivation is. But again, if you're gonna be making specific claims about like these organizations not having any guidance, it is on you to at the very least do some Googling or whatever.
And just so you know how it works. Go ahead, sorry.
And really fast, it seems a little bit odd to say that this doc is wrong, this other doctor was on there is wrong for wanting people to get vaccinated. Let's just treat it. It is very rarely the position of doctors that you should just freely get sicknesses, get diseases, and then we'll figure it out. That's not how we approach other things. And I'm nervous to ask, is that how we should have been dealing with polio and smallpox and all that? Because I can't guarantee that she wouldn't say yes at this point. But I think that seems absurd to most people, and it should be seen as just as absurd in this case.
Right.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Well, it's just so stupid that she's like, she's saying it as though the only thing you can do in any pandemic is medications after people get it. That's just totally not how any of those pandemics explicitly have gotten eradicated, if they've gotten eradicated. Like, it's through vaccines. Like, I'm sorry, that's how it works. And then just in terms of how it works and how she gets booked, what happens is she has someone who is advocating on her behalf. She hires a PR firm, and that PR firm blasts out to everyone with like a headline. Like, I get these emails. I don't know how I got on these email lists, but I get the emails that are like, doctor to tell reasons vaccine doesn't work. And then it's just a blurb, and you get them from the same people all day long. And very lazy bookers just go, oh, thank God there's someone, I'll just go to them.
Yeah.
They have them on, that's it.
Yeah. And the thing about those emails is you can't unsubscribe from whatever's causing it. You can only unsubscribe from each individual a-hole. I hate it. Anyway. Okay, well, look, we like facts here, or at least we want you to believe that. So we're gonna go into some of those in just a second. We're being told that we are in a pandemic of the unvaccinated, but how bad is it? Well, if you've been watching the news, you know it's not great. In LA County, for instance, yesterday we had more than 2,750 cases. That is about 250 more, about 10% more than we had the day before. So that's not good. And overall cases are indeed rising across the country. So if you look at a chart going back basically to the beginning of this year of the overall case count, I know that you probably can't read the specific numbers there, but it is starting to inch up after falling precipitously earlier this year. Hopefully that is a good enough description for the podcast. So that's not great, but more importantly, that's the country at large. We know that not every state is being hit to the same extent. So one of the worst hit, I wanna show you how Missouri looks. So if you look at the chart for Missouri, you see it, and you can see the national numbers sort of grayed out there, but it had fallen. It had been steady with some spikes along the way, but it is now starting to march back up to where it was at the beginning of this year, when we were starting to come down from that dark winter where the vaccine was starting to be spread. But here is the thing about those numbers. Those numbers are the population at large in that state, which includes some people who are unvaccinated and some people who are vaccinated. And so effectively, the fact that something like at least 40% of the population is vaccinated is, thanks to the power of the vaccine, artificially taking down numbers. Now that is perfectly valid data and important if you just wanna get an idea of what it's like there. But if you wanna get an idea of what it's like for the unvaccinated, that's not necessarily the best way to look at it. So the New York Times has done a visualization of the case rates among the unvaccinated population. And you can take a look at Missouri's numbers there, and they are now back to about where they were at the very beginning of the year, when we were in that dark winter and so many people were dying. Now, clearly, not as many people are dying because you can separate out the populations, but of course, what you're getting there is not a random sampling of people. Those unvaccinated people in Missouri are not randomly chosen from the population, and older people are far more vaccinated. So you do have higher cases. You don't necessarily have as many deaths as you would have expected with that case count earlier this year, but the cases are going up, and that does necessarily lead to more deaths. So I wanna show you another state, even larger population. Here is Florida. Again, those numbers focusing on those who are unvaccinated. You can see that we are back up to January 18th numbers, and just hoping that that's the peak, but there's no reason to believe that, unfortunately. And if you map out a bunch of these states, you can see Nevada here and Arkansas as well. Again, they are back up to the numbers they were at, like Nevada is at January 29th. Arkansas is at February 1st. And again, the hospitalizations aren't necessarily quite as, that's actually the hospitalization numbers, I apologize. The death numbers aren't as high as they were at, but the hospitalization numbers among the unvaccinated are back up to about their worst point earlier this year. And those numbers aren't, those charts, I should say, aren't necessarily what you're gonna see every day. But if you're a person in certain parts of the country, your experience is gonna be very similar to what it was like in many parts of the country during the dark winter. Brett, what are your thoughts about that?
what do you do with all this information? All this information says to me is get vaccinated. It just, and more information that comes in over time reinforces that. Period. That's all I can do with that information. And everyone else is playing some kind of weird, stupid game. It just shows me the thing that I was pretty sure of when I got vaccinated, which is if you're vaccinated, you will be more protected against the consequences of this virus than if you are not vaccinated. The mRNA vaccines seem to be performing very well in identifying the thing they told us to identify. It would work to identify is basically finding a lot viruses like this one and protecting you against it. And when variants come up, those variants are viruses like the original, and it protects you against it. And everybody else that's playing this game where it's like, well, you can still get breakthrough in infections after you've been vaccinated. Ignore these other facts, which I again say that like it's still a deadly virus. Nothing is wildly safe. But by comparison, something is. By comparison, getting vaccinated will keep you from getting sicker. It will keep you from being hospitalized in a much greater extent. And the other thing is, as we hear from Rand Paul about this gain of function activity, not getting vaccinated is essentially turning everyone into a gain of function lab. Because we then, instead of putting it in some lab to change things about it to see if we can create a vaccine or whatever people use, gain of function or whatever Rand Paul's talking about that's not gain of function, whatever that is, we are just throwing billions of human test labs at this virus, and they are changing it into something else. So when we talk about how to deal with pandemics, you have to do the best thing. We all should definitely do the best thing. And right now it looks like the best thing to do, given that yes, this is a deadly virus, is to just get vaccinated.
Yep, 100% right. Yeah, and that's why we put it in the rundown. It's probably not gonna work. Let's keep it real. Everybody's trying to figure out the magical thing that will get people to not willingly walk to their death. And we've been trying for months. It is a disheartening thing to be having to watch. And also knowing that, as Brett pointed out, there are breakthrough cases. So the best you can do for yourself is to get vaccinated. But even then, you have a small chance, a much smaller chance that generally someone who is unvaccinated could get you sick. The odds of a vaccinated person infecting another vaccinated person are very, very small, obviously. But we are always going to be at least a little bit at risk as long as a significant percentage of our population refuses to do the right thing. Okay, with that, we're gonna take our second break. When we come back, new details on how Trump has conned his followers out of millions of dollars. That'll be fun after this. Okay, everybody. Reminded to remind you, it is Vaxxed Human Summer. So if you're interested in telegraphing that you don't want to die, you can go to Shop TYT, and Vaxxed Human Summer merch is now available. It's a cool little summer design. Wanted to thank our new members, and there are a good number. Tammy Ware, welcome to Tier 1 YouTube membership, as well as Kayla Matson 2. Icosahedra Dragon, welcome to TYT Premium. Thank you to all of you. We've got Kara Lee, the Enduring Dragon, upgraded their membership to Tier 2, getting access to those top 10 lists. Kevin, welcome to Tier 2. El Luchador Negro, welcome to Tier 1. Thank you all of you for becoming members. We are racing towards that new emoji slot. I can't wait to see it. Let's see in the super chat. Chris says, super chat as a means of apology for describing today as garbage and Brett Day. When I first entered chat, the two are in no way connected.
Thank you so much.
Not that.
I'm 100% recyclable. You can compost the F out of me.
We had a question for Brett. Grant Stanfield says, ask Brett about the current status of marijuana. I miss that scaly lizard.
Yeah, Tim Frisch. I'm still with blue lizard guts on negro. I think it just was black in Spanish earlier. And then it was just a pronunciation thing. In terms of how marijuana is doing, Tim Frisch, the head of post-production at the network. I don't know the actual title that he has, but He has marijuana in a safe place at his compound.
Why does that sound like he kidnapped it?
And unless you become a member of TDR's YouTube membership, he will get rid of all the masks that marijuana has access to.
Jesus,
and take him to the Olympics without a mask.
I am very worried now for this iguana.
Yeah.
JNL says, hi guys, I just love Fridays with you too. How about giving an emoji to Trashy? Have a great weekend, everyone. Wait, we have a garbage people emote, don't we?
Definitely at Twitch, got a couple.
We do. Yeah, there is one. Here, I'm gonna put some in the chat right there.
No, John, you know what you're supposed to do is like, you're supposed to just turn over and go clink, 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 clink. Well, I've done it.
That's true. I just added it.
Friend.
It's so fresh. Nobody's ever used it before. Hardwood says, can't wait for my second shot on Monday. Does anyone have Splinter Dragon? Okay, I'm checking for both the rat as well as the annoying little thing on your finger. Nope, they're both free. Whichever it is now yours. CS says, just tuned in. Haven't seen TDR all week. Get vaxxed. I did, and I just got COVID the second time and ended up in the hospital for a few days.
Oh, dang.
Stay safe, Dragons, Night Dragon. That's a rough experience. But thank you for being back with us. I hope that you're doing okay. We're running low on time. Okay, Miss Kaylee. Hey, Miss Kaylee says San Dimas High School football rules. Everybody knows that. That's true. Ray Turner, aka the Bearded Dragon, says, don't want to kill the Friday buzz, but in the UK, my government has just given up. Freedom Day was last Monday, and the number of infections are up.
Guys, just be excellent to each other.
Thank you for that. Okay, let's see. Rob Dom says, said it before and I'll say it again. We all need to report ability to read minds on that site to prove how unreliable it is. The Veris site. Also, Charlie and Tucker are children's names. Geek Dragon taken? I don't think it is, and even if it is, it's now yours. Okay, a little bit more news to close out the hour after this. People are saying party on, dudes. I think that's a different reference, actually.
Those are all the same reference. At the end of Bill and Ted's, when the guy is, things are more moderner than before. San Dimas High School football rules. And then they go, woo!
I recently rewatched the first one and it's still pretty good.
I watched the third one.
Oh.
Things happen.
I kind of want to see it, but anyway. Okay, we'll have more news about that movie a little bit later on, but let's jump into a couple more stories. In the immediate aftermath of the November election, Donald Trump needed your money so that he could stop the steal, so he could save the republic, so he could launch audits of the ballots, basically do whatever it takes to stop that commie Joe Biden from overthrowing democracy and stealing the election from him. You might have seen on, for instance, Facebook, things like, we need you to join the fight to secure our elections. If you're on his email list or if you get text messages from him, God help you, because they were coming multiple times per day. And all of them wanted your email address, but more importantly, they wanted your money. And so he had a political PAC, Save America PAC, designed to do this. You donate to it, he will stop Biden from stealing the election. Here's the issue though. It raised about $75 million in the first half of this year. But that said, it has not devoted any funds to help finance the ongoing ballot review in Arizona or to push for similar endeavors in other states, according to people familiar with the finances. So it's happening, it's been happening. They got cyber ninjas over there, but he's not involved. And he wants it to happen in other states, but he's not spending any money to do it, despite telling you over and over and over that that's what you would be funding. In the meantime, the months-long audit in Arizona, which is expected to cost millions of dollars, is being paid for primarily by nonprofit entities that do not disclose their donors and private individuals such as the former Overstock chief executive Patrick Byrne. A lawsuit seeking a similar audit in Fulton County, Georgia has been financed by small donations, according to the group that brought the claim. I mean, they raised $75 million in the first half of this year, Brett. It would be just a tiny percentage of that to pay for the entire thing in Georgia and Pennsylvania and wherever. You can go to Michigan, you can go all over the place. They could easily pay for it, but he's just not doing it, Brett. Why is that?
I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna beautiful mind it. You can't see it, it's right off here. And I'm connecting the dots and everything. And it's a grift. It's always already
but for money
been a grift. For money, for popularity. He is in the grift business. This is on his expense report, not audits. His expense report is travel. His expense report is everything except the thing he's raising money for. Because they're not donating to the Trump re-election campaign. They're not donating to the audit experience. They're donating to this idea, this prosperity gospel type idea of they're right and everyone else is wrong. And what's crazy, it feels so culty when you point out like what your money is going to. It's not to anything but just giving him a lot of money to keep doing stuff that makes him feel dope.
Yeah.
And it's consistent with his entire career. He's gone bust. He's taken advantage of the system to get out from under it. And then based on this BS idea of success that he's been able to brand himself as having, folks have come in because the brand's more valuable than anything else. It's exactly this like entrepreneurial nonsense spirit concept of value. It's like baseball cards, right? Like baseball cards are pieces of cardboard with stats on the back. But if you get enough people to believe it's valuable, then it's valuable. And that's exactly how Trump has been. And people keep giving him money and people keep bailing him out and using that concept of value. Like when he got his Apprentice show, they had to fake his level of success.
Yeah.
And then he got successful off that perceived value.
I like your baseball card analogy. I have a question for you in a moment that's going to come off of that. But first, I want to give people just a few more details. So first of all, it is that obviously the journalists who are talking about this story have reached out to the Trump campaign to ask if they will be funding some of these audits, for instance. But a spokeswoman for Trump did not answer questions on whether the group is considering putting money into ballot review efforts. We will find out what they spent money on in the first half of this year after they publicly disclosed their fundraising and spending by July 31st. So at some point, I'm sure we'll have Dave Leventhal on and we'll talk about it. We'll figure out what they were spending on. But so far, they won't even lie to you. Like they won't even lie and be like, oh no, we're totally gonna do it. Like they won't even do that at this point. But the cherry on top of the whole thing, the stuff about the 75 million, that's what, there's a million headlines today about the 75 million. And I get it, it's a lot of money, it's the bigger number, but that to me is not the most amazing part of this. It's buried like halfway through the Washington Post article, and it's what happened before that. So Trump launched the group right after the election, and it quickly raised $31.5 million last year. But he had spent little of its haul by January 1st, according to its disclosure period, public disclosure for that period. The reason I think that's so much more amazing, even though it's only about half as much money, is that after inauguration, they raised tons of money and they're not spending it. Okay, that's totally dishonest, but he's thinking ahead to 2024 or whatever. But the thing I just read you, that's before inauguration. He raised all that money to remain president and didn't even spend it. Like he didn't even spend it to stay in the White House. That feels to me like 10 times more dishonest. Like if you want to throw him money now with Biden as president, God only knows where that money's gonna go. But they were terrified that he would ever leave the White House. And so they gave him money and he just hoarded it. He walked out of the White House finally, just dragging bags with dollar signs on them. How does that not annoy them?
Because it's in case he needs it. I mean, it's all the same ongoing grift.
He needed it then.
The guy was president of the United States complaining about how people were mean to him and he was being canceled. He's president of the United States. Like the most powerful person on the planet, pretending that they have no power.
Can I ask you a question? So, this is sort of about the baseball card thing. So he scammed them. He said it was gonna go towards this, it didn't go towards this. I don't have a poll, but I would guess that if you were to ask them how mad they are, I don't think the average level of anger would be very high. So does it matter? Is it still grift if they don't? And again, this is my assumption, but if they don't even care that they're being lied to over and over and over again, is Trump doing anything wrong? I guess this is like sort of a moral thing. What do you think, Brett?
Because he knows better. Yes, he's doing something wrong. He's doing something wrong because explicitly he asked for something under false pretenses because he knew he was never going to do these things with it. So he's doing it wrong. However, I think JR is going to, he might have mentioned in the morning meeting, but he was like, I feel the same way, which is just like, if you take money from a sucker, they're suckers. Like, what can you do?
Sure.
And they're fine with it. They're fine with the concept that Donald Trump isn't doing the thing that he asks for the money that he might be able to do. But they still love him no matter what and think that he has like a better idea of what to do with that money than anyone.
Yeah.
So
I would just say based on the experience of the last 10 years or so, generally, I mean, don't give money for recounts because they never spend it on the recounts. It's like a law of the universe. They will not spend it on a recount.
Well, ironically,
entire campaign debt or whatever.
Ironically, what ends up happening with some of these recounts, like in Pennsylvania, they basically booted all the voting machines, and they're probably going to replace them with new voting machines. So you're just giving more contracts to voting machine companies. They had to boot them because the people who took possession of those voting machines now have compromised the integrity of the voting machines by having them.
Yeah,
so they have to completely change everything about it. But yeah.
Okay, well, we are running low on time in this first hour, so why don't we jump into our last story? It now feels like forever that Brett Kavanaugh has been on the Supreme Court, but it really wasn't that long ago that we were in the thick of his confirmation battle, trying to figure out if America would pass the incredibly low bar of choosing someone for the court that was not saddled by so many obvious, massive issues lurking in his past. And during that battle, there was an investigation by the FBI. But what was that investigation actually like? How deep was it? Was it designed to actually get us to the truth of who this person was, and was he qualified to be on the Supreme Court? Well, on Wednesday morning, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse's office released a June 30th letter from FBI Assistant Director Jill Tyson. As a result of this release, we've learned that the FBI's supplemental investigation happened at the direction of the White House, that the most relevant of the 4,500 tips the agency received were referred back to White House lawyers in the Trump administration, and that in the days of the follow-up investigation, 10 people were interviewed. It doesn't say this, but other reporting has confirmed that neither Christine Blasey Ford nor Kavanaugh were among those 10 people. And I'm not super obsessed with like true crime podcasts, and I've watched a little bit of like Mare of Easttown, so I'm not an expert on the procedure, but I think the core people are supposed to be talked to at some point. And so they didn't do that. They collected tips. They didn't look into them. They gave them to the Trump lawyers as if to give them ammunition to then use in the public debates. They didn't talk to the core people. So, I mean, it's not like we have a lot of faith in the process that this is now destroying, but how could one have any faith that they discovered what might actually be lurking out there when they so clearly didn't care about the details?
Yeah, I mean, this story serves to confirm all your suspicions about how seriously they took various things along the way. The FBI is like, well, I don't want to be on the hook for not passing these along, but I'm not really going to look into them very much. They did the fact that the 4,500 most credible tips means one of two things. That one, there were 4,500 tips, and the FBI was like, yeah, these are all germane. They came in the same phone tip line. Yeah. Here, take them. Or there were way more than that, and they passed them along to essentially the group of people who had zero incentive to do anything with them. Yeah. That's depressing. That's sad. In terms of like the grand scope of this story and its ability to change anything about America, I just don't think it can do anything. I don't think it can change anything about America. I think it's sad and continues to jade people throughout this process. But like, yeah, it seems about right. I think in the grand scheme of things, Brett Kavanaugh's appointment to the Brett Kavanaugh's appointment to the Supreme Court is not like huge news if we look back on history, because someone similar with worse allegations is Clarence Thomas.
Sure.
And he's been on the court forever and still continues to wear the robe. And that was
but isn't that kind of one of the reasons that Kavanaugh felt even worse? That it was an opportunity to reflect on apparently how little progress there's been in multiple decades.
I mean, no. I mean, we go back to the Kavanaugh thing. This was never going to be. Kavanaugh's thing was so frustrating because, and it was different from, it was different in my opinion from the Clarence Thomas issue. The Clarence Thomas issue was these two are coworkers at the time, and this guy is doing it now horribly. It sucks. The other one is picturing Brett Kavanaugh's, garden path road to being a Supreme Court justice for life, all the way back to when he was in high school drinking beers with PJ and Squee and doing horrible things at parties. They were separated by decades, like those issues. The big thing that would get me, I think there should still be an investigation to all 4,500 of these tips, and specifically with this in mind. And it's the reason why I compare it to Clarence Thomas is if this behavior continued to at that point, where it was close to like after he was in the working world and he should have been kicked out of all these opportunities that he had while in the working world, that in his judiciary career arc, that's the part where I'm like, we need to go in there and we could do an inquiry if more of this comes out. So I think people should continue to do it. I don't know what 4,500 tips are. It's just a total number.
It's like talking about space. It becomes a number so large that you can't even conceptualize it. Look, I think we might disagree a little bit about, I don't disagree about pragmatically the fact that they weren't as current affected people. I don't think that morally it should have any effect whatsoever. And one could say that at the very least, a guy that's going to be adjudicating the most important issues of our country, lying to our faces about it is also a major cause for concern. And I was watching that happen in real time. Assuming
that's a great point. That's deep. I think that's a better point than anyone.
So
the fact that he's lying at the time. But because you could say there's a difference between a teenager doing something horrible and a 40-year-old man doing something horrible, and him lying to our face is way, way horrible. If those 4,500 tips end up bearing out that we can prove it, then yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, anyway, at least the details are out. We'll see if anything comes of it. This is America. It's 2021, so I doubt anything will, unfortunately. In any event, that is unfortunately all the time we have for our first hour. So thank you to all of those of you watching on our linear audience. For those of you on Twitch and YouTube, we do have more news coming. So we're gonna take a short break, but we'll be back after this. Welcome back, everybody. Hello to YouTube and Twitch. Thank you for sticking with us. We've got a few more stories for you, and it's not that long until the garbage can gets full. So we are running low on time for you to go and vote in the Community Garbage People poll, but that is available on the YouTube channel. Before we get back into that, though, I do want to let you know about a few things, including that, as always, after this program, immediately after that, we take a short little break, and then Indisputable with Rashad Ritchie and Francesca Fiorentini, the host today. That's going to be fun, huh? That's available at youtube.com/indisputablety. Shelley Winter will be on for a debate. And it's important that you know that not only after this show is Indisputable, but Indisputable is now permanent. A new part of the TYT lineup. How awesome is that, Brett?
It's so great.
We knew it was gonna happen like instantly. Like 2 days into it, it's like, oh no, this is never going away.
Yeah. So good. He's so great.
Did he say that?
Dr. Ritchie was on TYT yesterday for both hours and bonus episode, and it just was so fun and great. He's so awesome, and he gets it. Shelley Winter, who is the bullpen guest today, is like a friend of Dr. Ritchie's, and also the guy who got the Cosby interview after all that went down. And they're like conservative, like frenemies, I guess, like in a good, joking way. So those debates are like, it reminds me of my best friend who's like a staunch conservative, like where you're like, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. Anyways, I'll see you this weekend. Like that stuff. Yeah. I think it's so great.
Like that. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, by the way, today is Friday. So, I mean, like this show and then Rashad Ritchie show, that is just the beginning of all the fun. We do have, let's see, we've got Ben Carollo's It's Galaxy Brain is gonna be coming up a little bit later on. That's immediately after Indisputable. So head over to Twitch or stay there, and that'll be available at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So that should be a lot of fun. Ben was one of our 2 Twitch pitch winners. I believe Ivana is actually in the chat. I believe I saw her name, so that's awesome. That was yesterday reactions, and the Friday Power Panel is also going to be coming up a little bit later on. I'll be leading the first hour with Charles Coleman and Kenya Evelyn. That's going to be awesome. Jared Jackson, Mark Thompson, and Francesca Fiorentini will be on the second hour. That's going to be a lot of fun too. All of that is coming up very soon. And in one moment, we're going to jump into the news. But first, I wanted to welcome Magdalene Moondragon to YouTube membership. Thank you for that. I'm going to have to see a little bit later on today how close we are to that new emoji slot. But a few more super chats. The Progressive Carpenter says, for the record, I claimed Splinter Dragon a long time ago, but have since relinquished that title and have become Jacket Off Jim Dragon.
So good.
That's pretty good, yeah. That's not bad. Thank you, Progressive Carpenter. Are you not merciful? Christian Rash says, I finally went and got my first shot, so you two can stop calling me an idiot every day. So far, I'm not mutated. I'll keep you posted. Thank you, you half idiot. Go get your second one eventually. Anyway, Bernie the Kiwi Dragon says, thank you for the 2 new emojis. These 2 were long overdue. Keep up the good work. Keep taking out the trash. Serve, strive, and never yield. Thank you. If you want to know why we did not have those emojis until now, it's because I thought we had them. I thought that, well, of course we must. Anyway, Nove says we need proof of life for marijuana. Pepperoni Dragon says hi. Yes, we need to put the iguana on the phone. I want to know that she's okay. Anyway, with that, we've got some more news to get to, so why don't we do that? For the past month at least, you've had the Put America First tour with Matt Gaetz, who you're seeing now, and Marjorie Greene, 2 people who are technically in Congress, and they've been traveling around the country giving speeches and hobnobbing and, let's keep it real, raising money. Or at least they've been trying to, because it has not been going particularly well. Since they kicked it off with their May 7th event at the Villages, their campaigns and joint fundraising committee have posted a combined loss of $342,000. Put America First donations apparently have totaled about $59,000, which means that with the $287,000 that they've spent on their events, they're in the hole by more than $225,000. And none of this makes that much sense though. Like they kicked it off by donating money from their campaign. So $150,000 from each one of them. And they've gotten small dollar donations. Apparently no big donations have come through to the PAC. I mean, God only knows what they've gotten individually. But what doesn't make sense is that in the first quarter of the year, or actually in the second quarter of the year, they raised a lot of money. So Gaetz and Greene raised 1.34 million and 1.31 million individually in that period, and it's dipped since then. So that, like, this headline is everywhere, Brett. But it seems weird to me that, look, as much as I despise them, I think that they're terrible, terrible people, and they make a mockery of our government on a daily basis. But they should be able to raise money, though. Like, that sort of horrible stuff is very popular right now. So what do you think explains this?
This reeks to me of people shuffling money around based on how they can get out of tax issues. And Matt Gaetz has done a good job. Like, it's this concept of populism and the difference between right-wing populism and left-wing populism. The right-wing populism seems very actively grifty because it's people like Matt Gaetz and Donald Trump that are pushing for it. And when it comes down to brass tacks, they only ever do stuff like this, Matt Gaetz does, which is make himself more popular and do stuff with other people's money. Which is ironic because that's the one thing that they're lambasting the establishment Republicans for doing. and they're just doing horrible stuff with other people's money.
Are you getting sad that they're not more successful? Is it affecting you? I apologize. I know right? The tour's not over. They might be able to
getting choked up, but it's perfect. And all the things that have happened along this tour that they're on are so horrible. These are the folks who are the best at being villains.
Yeah,
actively being crappy worldwide and world wrestling entertainment villains. Like, look at what Matt Gaetz has done with Marjorie Taylor Greene on this tour. The Georgia and Florida representatives who spend all of their time talking about how evil California is, come here to raise money. And when they come here to raise money, what happens? They grift off Britney freaking Spears. Matt Gaetz crashes a Free Britney event and says, "Free Britney." No. There's nothing about Matt Gaetz that is in line with what Britney Spears fans are advocating for, period. Yeah. Other than he's willing to stand there and take the microphone and say, "Free Britney." Like, Matt Gaetz has been under conservatorship from his father for years, willingly. Because his father's the one who shields him from any kind of legal consequences for his drunk driving. And then also Matt Gaetz is currently taking advantage of the legal system and under investigation for child sex trafficking. Like this guy, just because he says one line you like, is that? Yeah.
As soon as you said there's no connection, I started racking my brain to come up with one to be a contrarian. And the best I've come up with is the possibility that one of the Venmo notes he sent had, "Oops, I did it again." That's as much as I was able to come up with, unfortunately. But no, there's no connection. It's just grift. And maybe the dam is broken. Maybe their fundraising will continue to drop. That would be great. At least earlier this year, Marjorie Greene raised $3.2 million within the first few months. It's dropped since then, but that is just such a massive amount, and it hurts on multiple levels. The first is that Republicans would love so much someone as objectively terrible as this, but the other is the continued comparisons between her and members of the squad since then, like as if people would like AOC if she was just awful on Twitter and wasn't, like trying to pass a public banking act every week or some equivalent. Marjorie Greene, since those $3.2 million, all she's done is go on tour with Matt Gaetz. That's it. She did, an empty desk press conference. That's it. These are not the same thing. And so it would be great if our media could catch up on that. But anyway, we are rapidly running out of time that we have. So I want to make sure that we get to this G block because it was a really cool story suggestion from Sophie. So let's jump into this. The billions of dollars that have been sent to state and local governments via the COVID aid packages have been spent on a lot of different things. And I'm sure there's examples where we can find literally millions of dollars that we quibble over whether it was the best use of that money. But in some cases, it is not up for debate. And so we're gonna go very local. We're gonna go to the members of the Shiawassee County Board of Commissioners who agreed to share a windfall in federal COVID relief funds with employees last week. That sounds good initially. What they didn't tell the public was that top-level administrators for the county would receive far bigger payments, up to $25,000 each. than the frontline workers who were directly exposed to coronavirus as they cleaned buildings and provided vaccines to residents. So how did this function? What's the difference in the payments? Well, records obtained by MLive, the Flint Journal, show top-level administrators in the county received $25K each, while the department heads each received half, $12,500. Middle management officials received $5,000 each, while chief deputies, health department employees, and attorneys received $2,500. So health department employees, or to my mind, like the people who are actually fighting the pandemic, received 1/10 what top level administrators got. So the cleaning staff, again, those are the people who are literally dealing with trying to stop, like especially early on when we thought it was mostly transferred via touch. They got $2,000. Other employees got $1,000, which is almost offensive at that point. But yeah, even the chairman of the county board of commissioners got $25,000. And all of this is bad, Brett. And I want your thoughts. But I had an immediate question as soon as Sophie was telling me these numbers, and it was $25,000. Wait, this is like a board of commissioners. How much could they possibly get paid? They get paid about $10,000 a year. So it was a bonus that was 2.5 times their pay for the year. What do you think?
And most of the people on the list got more in bonuses than you got in stimulus.
Oh yeah.
I think that's what's frustrating. $25,000 a year. It's exactly the worst thing it does. It plays into narratives of government waste.
And corruption,
yeah. And the other thing it does is play into the concepts of corruption. So people are taking this money and giving it to themselves. And these stories pop up all the time. And a lot of the ones that are for businesses sometimes shake out okay, because I think that there are people who are employed through these PPP loans that went to some pretty weird businesses. But then you think about, I always remember how much it costs to like actually run something like that and who you're employing along the way. So I try to keep that in my mind as I, also hear echoing like corporations are evil. But like, dude, at least those are going to employ people. This is, hey, I'm just gonna give myself the money because I'm in charge of how much money goes to people. And that's horrifying. And that's everyone's worst fear. And everyone has it bad enough without these like very obvious bits of corruption.
100%. Yeah, and some people say that they were surprised when they got the money. Okay, maybe. Commissioner Cindy Garber, she was honest. She says, I think I earned it. Okay, it was a rough year. Everybody earned something. We'll let the voters decide, I guess.
I think I earned a gajillion dollars.
That's true. But two things. Here's surprising facts for you. How much do you think the sheriff got? The full 25K. And we haven't said if these are Democrats or Republicans. Apparently they're all Republicans. Although I wouldn't put it past Democrats to engage in the same sort of corruption.
At least crime.
But anyway, that was fun
during that time.
Thank you. Yeah, at least. Anyway, okay, so let's prep for our final segment of the day while I let you know, thanks to editor Cassie, who's also our photographer. Cassie is awesome. FYI, Marijuana has a live stream every Friday, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on Marijuana Official on YouTube. So you can search for that and you will find supposed proof that marijuana is still alive. I think Cassie is playing old recordings on that, but anyway.
And it's great because it's just music and you can watch. So you open up Galaxy Brain on one side of your screen, and you've got in the top corner, you've got in the background the marijuana going. It's like basically like
Blizzard Lo-Fi
with a dinosaur.
Exactly. Okay, with that, I think it's time. We ready to go? I think we are. It's the end of the week, and so it's time to take out the trash. Okay, everybody, this has been a pretty garbagey week. Brett, who is your garbage person of the week?
My garbage person of the week, John, is Benjamin Elizabeth Shapiro. I don't know his middle name, but Ben Shapiro. And why there's many things to choose from. I know if you want to watch the video that TYT did earlier, he gets completely shut down by Neil deGrasse Tyson, thinking he's gonna have a scientist tell him why trans athletes shouldn't exist. And then Neil deGrasse Tyson completely demolishes him. But in this situation, it comes down to the name change for the Cleveland baseball team, formerly the Indians. And as you'll learn from this video, they have a new name. Take a look.
to keep watch and guard what makes this game the greatest. And together, we are all Cleveland Guardians.
So they changed the name from Indians to the Guardians. And Ben Shapiro immediately launches into next on the chopping block. He tweets, Atlanta Braves, Kansas City Chiefs, Golden State Warriors, Chicago Blackhawks. Like, okay.
I like the subtle voice.
Yeah, all of those things. I think we have to keep whatever people, who are in the affected class have to keep. But then he follows it up with this: hardest hit, the Native American after whom the team was supposedly originally named, Louis Sokolexis, to which Manny Fidel responds, interesting you refer to Sokolexis as a Native American. Is there any reason for that? As opposed to the name of the team that got changed, because even Ben Shapiro, this is what makes him so garbagey.
That took me a second.
He knows that he can't, he calls him a Native American in his tweet out of respect, implying Ben ipso facto logic dork, that there is something disrespectful about the alternative nomenclature. And you can speed this up when you play it back to yourself to go to bed at night, Benjamin. So it can be played at a pace that really resonates with you. So it's so stupid. And also they're calling it out, like, how the hell did they come out with the Guardians? That first image that you saw in the video we just played, those are the Guardians of traffic or transportation. Those are like well-known things. The imagery from the Guardians is in the new logo. Like, it totally makes sense. It sounds like Indians, and it looks like it when people, you see half the time when you see the players celebrate, it looks like it says that already on their jersey.
Yeah, and Guardians sounds like it would have been a team name anyway. Like, it sort of fits. It's a sport. They're Guardian. Like, it fits fine. It takes 5 seconds of Googling to find out why they chose that name. You don't get to be surprised because they announced a year ago that they were starting a process to change the name. So, like, Ben Shapiro, one of the reasons I'm kind of surprised that he is one of the more popular online right wingers is that he covers the stuff he's supposed to be outraged by, but he can't even really sell it. Like, I know today's the day as a right winger, you're supposed to be mad that they changed the name or whatever. He's not even good. Like, I'm sure Tucker Carlson is gonna lose it later today about this team that he doesn't watch. But he can't even really sell it. He just knows that he's supposed to be incensed by this. And then he's gonna go immediately back to saying that the left is too sensitive and gets worked up and triggered about things, but he's freaked out about the fact that the name changed to something that I think is objectively not only less offensive, but also better and more monetizable. Anyway, that was a good garbage person. And Manny Fidel on Twitter, nice sharp commentary. I appreciated that, even if it took me a moment. Okay, my garbage person of the week is going to be me. I know the team thinks it's Sean Hannity. No, it's me. It's related to Sean Hannity though. So I want to finish up a week-long arc, and that is seeing if it made sense to give Sean Hannity even the tiny bit of credit I gave him. Now, at the time, when I gave him credit for seeming to encourage people to not willingly throw themselves into a COVID volcano, we gave the context that he was still bringing on people to talk about vaccine side effects for different vaccines and all that. It was never great, but I still am so desperate to give credit that I did a little bit, and I am garbage because of that. Because he's not gonna go more than just a couple of weeks, a couple days, allowing you to think that he's taking it seriously. So because of the strike back that he's gotten, he went on his show and had this to say.
I have no idea why, but it was only in the last week, my coverage of coronavirus, COVID-19, got the attention of the liberal press in their attempts to paint this great network of ours, which has varying opinions, which is actually fair and balanced, to paint us as a dangerous anti-vax network. They watched this program and were shocked to discover what I said and what I had been saying for months and months and months. Business Insider reports, quote, suddenly Sean Hannity and other Fox hosts are urging their viewers to get COVID-19 vaccines. I never told anyone to get a vaccine. I've been very clear. I am simply not qualified. I am not a medical doctor. I know nothing about your medical history or your current medical condition, I think it's inappropriate for me to do so. Instead, for over a year now, I have been warning my viewers, you make my career possible. I want every American, liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, I want you to be healthy.
I want you to be healthy, but like people are really criticizing me, and I've already made clear to you in the last 30 seconds, I'm focused on the effect on my career. I'm literally talking about it right now. So I want you to be healthy, but like if you're gonna criticize me, I guess I gotta go back to being okay with you dying. But don't get mad at me. I've been consistent for months saying, I don't know, like you can get it, you can not get it. I don't care. I'm gonna make you suspicious about it, but it would be nice if you didn't die, but I'm not gonna actually try to stop you from dying. The whole thing is just such garbage. They live in constant terror of their audience. That is, unfortunately, the curse of the grifter. The grifter puts together an audience, extracts money out of them like a parasite, but it's really kind of symbiotic because now I need you. I don't want to lose you guys. Come on. I know I told you these lies that made you really comfortable, but don't go anywhere. I still need more money out of you. And so Sean Hannity is not going to allow himself to become the next Shep Smith or the next Ducey or whatever. He needs to reassure them that he's just as anti-science as he had led them to believe. And so he didn't deserve any of the credit. We'll see going forward, but I'm going to be a little bit more hesitant to dole out credit that's probably not deserved. Thoughts, Brett?
Two thoughts. One, this is hilarious. Second, Sean Hannity, Fox News all the time tells people to take all kinds of crazy medications because as soon as it goes to commercial, it is only ever medical commercials that are telling you that you need to take Jardiance.
Yep.
Talk to your doctor right now and ask them if Jardiance is right for you. He doesn't even go as bold as the ads on his own network to say, talk to your doctor. He says, I don't know what you want. And the other thing is that his audience just doesn't want to be reasoned with. And it's a thing that happens all the time when you have this rabid group of people that you just keep throwing red meat at ever. You ask them to eat a vegetable once, they completely lose it and go for the hand that's been feeding them.
Yep. That is an accurate description of that situation and my diet. Yeah, you're 100% right, and he's demonstrating it in real time. So those are our garbage people, but what about you? Well, 35,000 of you voted this week for the community garbage person of the week, and we've got your top 5. Starting at number 5 with 3% of the vote, Megyn Kelly for attacking Naomi Osaka over her Vogue cover. At number 4 with 9% of the vote, you've got Marjorie Greene for claiming vax questions violate her HIPAA rights. That was more funny than garbagey, although awful. At number 3 with 24% of the vote, you have Rand Paul for accusing Dr. Fauci of lying about COVID research. That was a fun one. Number 2 with 26% of the vote, Kevin McCarthy for nominating 2020 objectors to the 1-6 committee. And your garbage person of the week, 38% voted for Jeff Bezos for thanking his workers for paying for his space trip. Sometimes I disagree with you all, but I will bow to the popular wisdom here. That was a really garbagey thing to do. So thank you to the 35,000 of you who voted. Thank you to everybody who's been signing on as a member, getting us closer to that rainbow dragon emoji. Much appreciated. Brett, also, I guess, thanks to you.
Thank you. We'll see you in common room later. I think we're gonna play games tonight again. It's fun to do that. So Jackbox, John will be on.
Definitely stay tuned. What? And thank you all. Indisputable is coming up with Rashad Ritchie and Francesca Fiorentini, and that's just the beginning. You've got Galaxy Brain, you've got the Power Panel. There's a lot coming, but until then, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.
It's Friday. We have a hell of a show today. Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richard. Good to have you here. In the bullpen later in the program, we will have Shelley Winter, host of Word on the Street, 95.5 FM WSB. He's a black conservative. We're going to talk about the assault on education in Texas and other places. And we may get into critical race theory as well. You don't want to miss that. Guaranteed to be lively. Every time he's on the show, it is a lively discussion. Breaking down news of the day, Francesca Fiorentini, who is host of, and I only say it one time, The Bituation. I only say it one time, all right? She's gonna have to say it next, all right? My top news today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you a video of what I would say is a murder. It is a police officer killing a man by shooting him in the back. This is graphic. Let me warn you, it is not easy to watch. Here it is.
Phoenix Place. Have you done? Whoa! Put your hand down!
The man was complying. The man answered his door with a gun in his hand that he had a right to have. He answered the door because he didn't know who was knocking on the door, and he had issues with someone else knocking on his door late at night. He did not know this was the police. Let me give you some background to what happened to Mr. Ryan Whitaker. Police in Phoenix, a Phoenix police officer, Jeff Cook, is set to be fired for the fatal shooting of Ryan Whitaker. That occurred last May. Less than 3 seconds after answering the door, you saw exactly what happened. Now, you saw what happened, right? This man was not being violent. This man literally, once he saw the police, he said, whoa, whoa. And he started to lay down his weapon as well as lay down his body. That's what he started to do out of respect to the fact that law enforcement is at the door. He gets shot and killed in 3 seconds. Here's what the officers said happened.
Back away from the gun. Get back and get out here. Come out here. Come out. I'm not going to shoot you. Come out here. Come out here. Over here. Over here. Get down on your knees. Get down on your knees. Get down on your knees. Just get down. Just get down. Relax.
He just pulled a gun on us, ma'am.
Okay, because it's dark and someone just knocked on the door. Baby!
Hey. Just relax. Stay right there.
There's nobody else in the house.
Okay, fine.
Why did you come and knock on the door? What's the problem?
Neighbors called, said you guys were arguing and fighting.
There was fighting over here.
I knocked on the door. I yelled Phoenix Police.
There was no fighting.
He opened the door with a gun.
This is crazy because literally the other night he heard knocking on the door and he was looking through the peephole and he does have a gun on him.
Yeah, he does. He came to the door with it. And I'm not saying that he did anything wrong, but he just.
But did he pull it on you guys?
He had it out, and when he saw it was us, he hit it behind his leg, and he started walking at me. I drew out on him. I was on him, but I didn't shoot. My partner shot. So the guy upstairs calls. So when he calls back, they hot it out. And while we're on the way, dispatcher says, "Just so you guys know, we're unable to get any further info from the complainant." He says he just is going to answer yes to all the questions. He just wants the cops here now. Okay, great. Thanks for that. You know, I pull to the left of the door. Jeff's on the right of the door. Stand there. Door comes whipping open. I'm like, oh, held something. And then I saw a gun in his hand. So I yelled, gun. Throw out. And the guy started going right down. So I was like, no, I don't have to fire. Yeah.
They're lying. The video clearly shows that the individual, Mr. Whitaker, should be alive today. These officers responded in haste. One committed the crime. I see it as a crime. I know we have to say alleged, but what you saw was the death of a man that should be alive right now. Now, let me give you some more background. You saw towards the end, Officer Ferragamo going over the incident with another officer, again, insinuating that Mr. Whitaker was aggressive up until the point Officer Cook shot him. Not in the video, contrary to the facts, opposite of what happened. You are being untruthful. You are a liar. You are aiding and abetting is what you're doing. Now, this is Ryan Whitaker, 40-year-old father. Just celebrated his daughter's high school graduation earlier that day. He's dead. There was no domestic dispute, ladies and gentlemen. No domestic dispute whatsoever. It took Phoenix police 55 days to release an edited version of the body cam footage after a prompt request from Whitaker's family and friends. This officer, Jeff Cook, shot Whitaker and is now on administrative leave. Let's put up his picture. Yeah, that's him. He was placed on administrative leave after shooting a man in the back who was complying, who was not a threat. This is the officer who lied, Ferragamo. He's the one that made up the phony story about Mr. Whitaker being aggressive against them. Thus his partner having to pull and shoot his weapon. There's more. Whitaker's family said the couple had not been fighting, but they were playing a video game before going to bed. Whitaker's sister said he took his gun to the door after having recent trouble with an unknown person banging on the door at night. No domestic dispute, no violence, no criminality, nothing. On May 26, 2021, the Use of Force Board, comprised of sworn staff and community members, reviewed the shooting involving Officer Jeff Cook and recommended the incident be designated as within policy. After extensive review of the totality of the circumstances, get this, the damn chief, Chief Williams, has notified Officer Cook of the intent to move forward to end his employment with the Phoenix Police Department. The chief did that. The administrative process is still underway. In the interim, Officer Cook remains on administrative leave, and ladies and gentlemen, he remains paid. An entire board said, all good, no issue, within policy. The chief said, no, it's not within policy. It gets deeper. The Phoenix Law Enforcement Association, according to their statement, they are disappointed in the decision by the Phoenix Police Department to terminate Officer Jeff Cook. Cook should be in prison due to a shooting deemed in policy by the department's Use of Force Board, and will support him through the appeal process. What? You have got to be kidding me. Okay. According to the official report, this officer said that he felt he was in danger. He was threatened. No threat at all. My dear sister, how do you see this case?
I mean, there's so much there. We just have to take it piece for piece. But it's a crime. It's a clear crime and a clear murder of someone who was not even told to drop their weapon, or if they were, the bullets were already leaving this officer's gun as it happened, right? And when you look at the totality of it, you think, okay, so police officers are really deputized gangs. They are above the law, they can do what they want, and if there's any kinds of consequences, like after a year, terminating someone's contract, then you will have another gang behind you, which is the police union, that will come out and appeal and support you. Doesn't matter what you did. And so it is just time and again, you realize the police are not making us safer. They are truly not making us safer. And obviously, it is it is different to see a white man, an unarmed or an armed white man, be the one who is a victim in this case. But then you see that like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that the police are treating people like less than human, and especially people and Americans who do have a right to to bear arms, who do have a right to carry a weapon, right? And who do have a right when you're, someone's knocking on your door in the middle of the night to bring that weapon to the door. That's not a crime. It truly isn't. And I think this is where the right completely misses the mark, because you have, a guy like Whitaker who is defending himself. He's not, he was not like aggressing upon anyone, answering his door with a weapon, perfectly legal, and he still gets murdered by the police. And yet we're supposed to so-called back the blue, or are we supposed to back responsible gun ownership under the Second Amendment? Which is it, right? It seems to me that the progressives and liberals have got this issue right, and it's the right that doesn't understand that we have an out of control force that is supposedly meant to keep us safer and is not.
And think about this, they are so detached from humanity that none of these police officers, after they commit this egregious act, none of them are emotional about it. None of them are remorseful. None of them are even hyperventilating. I mean, nothing. They're not showing common emotion for a crime. Let's say they made a mistake. Let's say, okay, the guy's saying, I made a mistake. Well, where's the remorse in your mistake?
Yeah.
You guys immediately went into cover-up mode. You immediately went into cover-up mode. That means there's a culture here. There's a culture of corruption that allows you to respond this way when you are faced with a tragedy. Yes. Where's the NRA? Where's the NRA? What are they gonna say about responsible gun ownership? I think you make a fine point. Nothing, because it doesn't fit their national narrative. So they're not going to say a word about this. And look at all of the committees that were involved. Initially, you have a committee. They say some of the people on the committee are community members, and some are sworn officers. That committee said, this was within policy. And then the chief had to step in and overrule the committee and say, no, this is not within policy. So we're having a policy debate when we should be having a criminal debate. That should be the debate. And then the city council gets involved. They vote unanimously that this officer was out of line, outside of policy, and they award the family $3 million. No money will bring back a loved one. They award the family $3 million. In December 2020, the Phoenix City Council voted unanimously Wednesday to approve a $3 million settlement with the family of Whitaker. Doesn't bring them back, but once again, why are we not discussing this in the context of a criminal investigation? Yeah,
I mean, and it is really just like, you look at that footage and you're like, this is like a night raid in Iraq, or Afghanistan. This is just like, the sort of brute military force, go in shooting, ask questions later. And again, just like his partner screaming and crying, and just how many loved ones are told to sit down, to be quiet, to calm down when they've watched their loved ones. I remember the same footage on Philando Castile and his partner crying and no, in fact, calmly telling the officer that he was in the wrong. It was on her to be the bigger person. And this is the thing, we talk about police training this, police training that, and every time, right? It's always like, well, here's a police simulator, and they put some journalist in, and they walk around in this sort of video game, and they end up shooting somebody, and the officers are like, see, you are gonna shoot too. You're gonna be trigger happy too. And it's like, here's the difference though. Why does all this training lead to like officers who are deathly afraid? It is a dangerous job, but aren't you supposed to rise above that feeling? Aren't you supposed to rise above that? Isn't your training preparing you mentally and physically to disarm people, to tell people calmly, to de-escalate a situation? But 9 times out of 10, they escalate situations. They make things worse. Imagine if they hadn't been playing video games. It was a domestic dispute. What if there was domestic violence involved? Does anyone still deserve to lose their life on that night? No, not at all. And so that's another thing, is like, we need to be calling other forces than the police. And look, I'm someone who still believes in the slogan defund the police and to fund mental health services, domestic violence services, people who do know how to de-escalate situations.
Very well said. Let me go to a group of folks that only know how to escalate fear. The biggest hypocrites that you will find on the news, no, not those people. I would get to them later. But today, they're actually positive in my story. The Lincoln Project, a political action committee of current and former Republicans. They're basically anti-Trump, all right? Politics will make strange bedfellows at times. Fox News, the rhetoric of Fox News has led to the death of individuals in this country. There's a new commercial out by the Lincoln Project. Here it is.
Is Rupert Murdoch trying to kill Americans? His network is the leading voice against COVID vaccination.
How many Americans have died after taking the COVID vaccine?
Going door to door, this is creepy stuff.
The focus of this administration on vaccination is mind-boggling.
The Americans who are dying from COVID are almost all not vaccinated. Rupert Murdoch was vaccinated. Does anyone really think Tucker Carlson isn't vaccinated? But Murdoch's Fox News continues to put Americans at risk by pushing anti-vax hysteria. It's dangerous, immoral. Fox News is helping kill Americans. Call your local television provider and tell them to drop Fox News. It's not about politics. It's about life and death.
I mean, damn, that purge music along with the ad. I mean, say what you want to say about the Lincoln Project people. They make amazing commercials. Significant truth in everything in that commercial. Significant truth. Earlier this week on Indisputable, we covered the fact that human resources of Fox News, they sent out an email. We showed you that email. Fox News, they have a COVID protocol, a COVID vaccine protocol. And if you adhere to the protocol, you do not have to do the daily COVID checks. Yeah, they're vaccinated. Of course they're vaccinated. But once again, you have a group of individuals being paid to represent a point of view adversarial to the community that trusts them. We call those people sellouts. Francesca, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. First of all, I love the Lincoln Project. Look, they've got a bunch of money. Go to it. Go ham on cable news. Buy up the ad space. Like grassroots people don't have that money, so just do it. It's not harming anyone. I like the action item. Call your cable provider, because this is actually how the only thing that's gonna stop Fox News is if we hit them where it hurts, which is in money, going after their advertisers, going after the cable providers, who are all owned by like right wingers anyway. So I don't know how effective it's gonna be. But another thing I floated on the damage report was, look, there needs to be class action lawsuits from COVID death family members, right? People who've died from COVID, and saying, look, you are spreading this misinformation. You're gonna lead to, there are one-to-one relationships between people who watch Fox News religiously and who have died. Their family members have blown the whistle, have said, yeah, my father, my uncle, my mother, whatever, couldn't convince them otherwise to get the vaccine because this is what they were watching day in and day out. So I say, hats off to them. And look, this is what happens when you politicize the pandemic, but also when you've created a political cult. You can't go back on it. If everything is a cult and we just believe things that we can't see, but we know and we feel, then it makes perfect sense that Fox News, a network built on things you can't see, that you can't feel, immigrants coming for your jobs, black thugs, coming down, like banging down your door. Is any of that happening? Look at the McCloskeys. Was anyone actually trying to terrorize them? No, right? But that's what you're built on. Then you're gonna continue to double, triple down on the cult-like mentality.
Exactly, well said. We got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
We get animated about the news. Yes, we're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty, I care.
Senator Sanders, I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to ask you a policy question.
Hey, how dare you? That's the problem, you're the problem. Don't ever attack the Republicans. Where the is the liberal media? No. These are all establishment guys. They love the system as it is. They're all enormously rich off the system that exists.
For us, this system isn't working.
So what this campaign is about is trying to create an economy that works not only for the people on top, but works for all Americans.
We're gonna rock the boat. We're gonna be counter-establishment. We're gonna tell people the truth to the best of our abilities, and we're gonna keep it real with them.
I missed you guys. I was born to be eccentric. As soon as we figured out Instagram, they were like, can't use that anymore. The old people have it. Luckily, I'm mostly happy. Everything about Wiener Schnitzel is funny.
Can we thank Cuck Schumer just so that we can say Cuck Schumer?
If you and me pop up on TikTok, there's going to be like a creeper alert throughout TikTok. I'm going to do the rest of the show this way. It's a better look for me.
Did you watch any of Bridgerton?
Yeah, and obviously I stopped watching after 5 minutes.
There is a secret British female inside me.
Welcome to old school.
Let's give the people what they want.
How in the world are you going to get the right to vote if you don't already have the right to vote? That's impossible. Reason they tell you things are impossible is because they don't want you to try. It only took 7 years for that to get an amendment to get a right to vote.
Does this result in millions upon millions of Americans losing their coverage? And we've been waiting to find out, and now we know, yes, it will cut millions.
Public education was supposed to be the way to equalize everyone regardless of their socioeconomic status. But if you come from a family that's poor, how are you going to afford grade school for your kids?
This fight is about fairness and morality. It's about the American values.
You think that black people all across the country, in every city, were all lying when they said the police abuse and the police kill us when they should? No, of course they weren't lying. Yes, it does happen. Yes, they do get targeted more.
Why are we going to put immigrants in prison for 5 years, which American taxpayers have to pay for, if we're so concerned with immigrants using up our so-called resources?
We're gonna do both. We're gonna fight Trump and we're gonna fight the establishment. It is not that hard. Yes, you can do both at the same time. Go tell them.
ShopTYT.com has new shirts like this one. And you're thinking, Cenk, what is that one? I can't see it other than the black. Yes, so I'll show it to you. If you can read this, you're not practicing social distancing. Yes! Now, you were practicing social distancing. This is over video. But overall, you get it. ShopTYT.com.
Welcome back. Let me read some of these amazing viewer comments. Don't forget to always check us out. Indisputable TYT, Indisputable TYT. That's on social media. And you can hashtag Indisputable TYT. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter. IG and Twitter. All right, let's get to these comments. TYT member, Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon says, I learned so much from Dr. Richey. This week alone, he's taught me 2 new words, Karenicity and the political party moneycrat. Yes. Never too old to learn new words, exactly. Diana says, very angry tears. Yep. I am a damn lib. Says, how much you want to bet that the person who called the cops is the same who was harassing them at night by knocking on the door? That person should be investigated for sending the police to kill his neighbor. Wow. Let's go to Super Chat. Deidre Dragon says, when humanity seems to be slipping back into the dark ages, the wisdom of Dr. R and Francesca is what we need. That is so sweet. Love and respect. Mark Bugs says, the Lincoln Project ad got me scared, and I don't believe anything Fox says. That was freaking crazy. Call your cable provider? Damn. Yeah. Okay, all right, we got a lot more. I'm gonna try to get to more as we go on, but thank you so much for engaging. Next story.
Black man, look, you give me a call, black man. Give me a call. I'll give you $300, black man. Black man. Give me a call, black man. No one wants to look at you.
I wouldn't be giving her a call, black man. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday?
I feel free. Back off.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
Okay, Elizabeth Tracyak wandered into a Super 8 motel in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. According to the police, she was staying at a neighboring hotel, but entered the Super 8 while intoxicated. Obviously, you see the racism and the extreme anger coming from this woman toward a black hotel clerk. She is now facing criminal charges after he turned the video over to the police. Here's what else she did.
Black man, look, you give me a call, black man. Give me a call. I'll give you $300, black man. Black man. Give me a call, black man. No one wants to look at you. Come on, black man. Come on, black man. Come on. Wow. Look. You know what your name is? Look.
She's calling him the N-word, destroying property. Now, she has been charged with bias intimidation, assault, harassment, and disorderly conduct. Now, understand this in New Jersey. New Jersey does not have a hate crime statute, but they do have a hate crime like statute, and it's called bias intimidation. It falls under that category, and it's basically the same thing in the courts. My dear sister, you see this, it's unreal, but it happens more often than it should.
I mean, it is, first of all, the graphic, I wish Karen would, is probably the best graphic ever created by anyone, anytime.
Production team, Jordan, the crew.
Man, hats off, yes. Because Indisputable literally just has the best interstitials. I love this, I love those. It is painful. It's painful because, it doesn't matter that she's drunk, and I hate I really, really, really don't like the well, what if she is mentally ill or if she's drunk? Like these are excuses because what we're seeing is just a bald-faced entitlement and crazy amounts of entitlement, and also a feeling of that she doesn't want to be told what to do by a clerk, by someone who is black, by a staff member who is black. That's straight up. She doesn't appreciate it unless this person's serving her. Unless this person is rolling out the red carpet, unless this person's helping her with her bags. If this person was helping her, but clearly something happened that Karen didn't like, that she felt like, oh no, now she's in the right. And she's gonna call this man the N-word, black man, which she said sort of with an N-word intonation, let's be real. It just sounded like the N-word in the way that she said it. And it's painful, again, just as I always say this, but check on the Karens in your life, and they're not not all Karens. I know some very good women named Karen. However, it is the mentality, and you're like, this is what MAGA has wrought. This is what this moment has wrought, which is, hey, blame other people for your problems. That is it. And guess what? It's open season. You can be openly racist. It is fine. In fact, it's celebrated because why should you be so-called PC? Because doesn't everyone think this? No, they don't. Not everyone harbors the bigotry and racism that these folks do.
Yeah, and what you see on display are individuals who cannot put people in their place, so to speak.
Yeah.
And when they can't do that, they feel they need to resort to a racist default.
Yes.
And that racist default is their go-to. Now remember, this happens because it's already inside of them. This does not happen because of the alcohol. This happens because the alcohol has allowed the barrier to be eliminated. It's called liquid courage. And we continue to see this happen with Karens, male and female Karens across America and beyond.
Liquid Klansmen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, double dose. This is a white female chasing black children on a playground with a knife. She's an adult, they are children. She has a weapon, she's chasing them, calling them the N-word, and saying that they are the ones who are wrong. Fort Wayne police said that no charges were originally filed against Rowling because she and the children's parents decided to handle things by themselves. But the local change makers of Fort Wayne, a local advocacy group, spread the video online, urged the public to contact local officials and demand action. Let's put a face up. Yeah, she's been charged with 2 felonies, and here's more.
You sound fucking dumb as you don't You little! Guys, stay away from now! What's up? What's up? Get your bitch ass in the car. He called me an N-word though. Because you're being one. An ignorant person doesn't mean you're black. But you can't say it. You can't say it. I can say whatever I want. It's freedom of speech. Has he saying the N-word? Stop. He called me beat up 3 of my kids. 2 of your kids. Who the 3?
No, they almost did.
Girl, I don't hate girls. I hate.
No, they almost did.
It doesn't matter.
Go to jail, they stopped.
My kids weren't fucking with you. Yo, he called me the B-word 4 times.
He did. He kept doing me inside.
He deserved it. And then okay, I apologize. You need to watch your fucking mouth. Like I said. You sitting there telling me that they're starting.
They is. They all started this.
No, see, you got me. Get the fuck in the car.
Redneck logic is a hell of a drug. So she runs after children, black children at a playground with a knife because her young white child said these black kids were picking on me. And as she is committing multiple felonies in front of her child, she's calling the black kids the N-word and other things as well. She learns from the black children she was trying to kill that it was actually her son who used words that were not appropriate to the black children. And then she turns on her own son and says, shame on you for using that kind of language. You taught him this, Karen. You taught him to handle conflict in this way. And here's the other thing. He knew you were crazy as hell. That's why he told you the story he told you, because he knew you hated black people. So he told you the story that would make you get in your damn car, get a knife from your house, and chase black children on the playground and call them the N-word because he already knew the kind of evil that lives inside of you. He played you, he manipulated you because your own evil betrayed you. He knows who you are. That's why he did it. That's why he manipulated his mother. Francesca?
You shouldn't be using that effing kind of language. I mean, come on, like, lady, who do you think he learned this from? This is out of your mouth. You just wielded a knife at a bunch of children. Like, you're absolutely right. I mean, it is so sad because you see the ways that, like an emboldened racism is intersecting with someone who's clearly unstable, which again is not an excuse, but it's just like the superiority and the supposed racial superiority that she clearly feels going after children, right, is also intersecting with her terrible parenting, her like clear lack of a grasp on, I don't know, reality. Why are you chasing these kids around? And every time you see these videos, they're funny, they're bizarre. It's like rubbernecking, you see someone at their sort of worst, which you're like, wow, I didn't know you had that in you. But for me, they always come back to if the shoe was on the other foot, if it were black, a black mother and a child going after 3 white kids, if it were, just black women consistently doing this or black men, how many of them would have survived it? How many of them would this end in a police officer shooting them dead, right? I don't think the police are the answer at all, but it's just incredible the way we see this hypocrisy play out where you say, man, like they're emboldened because there are literally no consequences for what they're doing. And it's, I mean, once again, you just need to watch enough of these videos to be like, oh yeah, white privilege 101, here we go. Is this critical race theory? Do we need to cancel these videos? Like, is that what that is?
Yeah, and here's the other part of the privilege that this woman did actually benefit from initially. The police department, Fort Wayne Police said, we're not going to arrest anyone. We're not going to seek an arrest warrant, even though they saw the video, right? Mm-hmm. Because according to them, the parents decided to handle things by themselves. Now, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that just because 2 people decide to work something out, they all of a sudden are immune from felony prosecution? I've never heard of this before. If you are committing a felony against children, I don't think law enforcement should be able to just look away because you said you're gonna talk things out. Where in the hell does that happen? If it had not been for Change Makers, the organization, who pushed the issue, pushed the agenda, this woman would have gotten away with criminal acts against these children. And it sends a horrible message to these little ones. When people, especially white people in society who are racist against them, are able to get away with doing it. Yeah. At least now they learn that there may be a symbol of justice at some point in the narrative of the criminal justice system. Okay, we got more on the other side. Stick and stay is indisputable.
You know, old school was pitched to me from Jake. It'll just be me, you, Jesus, Ben, and maybe Michael. And we're like, okay, cool. I can do that every week. As you can see, me, Jesus, Ben.
When you make the order, it says, don't exceed $20.01. So I'll just order literally anything to get it as close to that as I possibly can.
I'm sorry that I ordered $45 worth of food and got an email saying, sir, would you like to rethink that? What are you talking about?
I was in hell. I was just like, oh my God, the theater's empty, nobody's here. Everyone on screen keeps fucking cursing. Why did I let this happen? And the whole thing looks like it was shot through a glass of milk. My mom's gonna be so mad.
If you're looking for a heart attack, the short way, baby.
Wrong. I did put mayonnaise on it. I'm the most in shape, overweight person you'll find.
That's right.
He was like, why didn't you answer my call? I called you 39 times.
Yuck. But what makes you stop right before 40? What makes you say, nah, man, I ain't doing that no more. I'm cool.
And I called you back on the air. And I was like, okay, Kevin Smith, big shot. What the you said you'd come on and you didn't come on.
I'm sure I took that very well.
Yeah, you did. You called me back the next day and said, I thought it was 7 a.m. And there's now deep fake porn. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
I heard of it. I just had some in the car.
I'll tell you who I'm not Ben Mankiewicz. Have you guys ever felt that?
Not ever.
And now it's just the three of us.
This is the intimate hour.
By the way, the last half hour of this, we're not even rolling.
Fair enough. Right, Kingsley. See, I watch movies.
I'm done with both of you.
Once Greg starts laughing, I can't stop. And I was just gonna ask you about getting high.
Snoogans, Snoochie Boochies. And members, of course, you can get the whole damn thing. TYT.com, join and free trial. I'm old school with the old folks.
Good.
John, come back.
Field goal here. It's time to switch to music.
Oh, man.
Oh, God.
Do your best.
He's a little like
Oh. No one's happy now.
Give him another try.
Oh. Wow.
This is the weirdest game.
I'm Brett. I would like to refer to this segment as the Do I Still Have This Talent show. So I want to see if I can play harmonica without my hands. I don't know why I have that. Nothing's gonna be more impressive than that. I can also spin a basketball on my finger. While drinking. I'm gonna spin a basketball on my finger while drinking apple juice. You can do this, dude. It's also flat. I don't know if that helps or hurts. And it seems to be somewhat wobbly. Ta-da! Nope, I don't know how to do this one. This one's a fail. Nope. Oh God, I'm so mad.
Welcome back to Indisputable. Let me read some of these amazing viewer comments. We got a lot of them. TYT member Danielle Labique says, hi, Dr. Richie. It's always great to see you, and I'm super excited to have Franny here too. However, seeing another person killed by the police breaks my heart. This is exactly why it is so important to get the George Floyd Act signed into law. Thanks for keeping me up to date on the truth. Love you both. And we love you back. Thank you for that. Cognitive dissonance is a hell of a drug, says, no, son, I'm gonna need more than an apology. That's attempted assault with a deadly weapon. Exactly, okay? YouTube super chat, another name says, you're an outstanding commentator. Thank you. Constantly making points I've never heard before. Even if it's on perspectives I've debated plenty of times, you spit fire of wisdom. Indisputably incredible. Thank you for that. CS says, Karen said, oh, sorry, like that solves everything. What the? I thank God for cell phones capturing these incidents. Poor kids. Yep, all around, by the way. Late bloomer, if this isn't bias intimidation, I don't know what is. Yeah, Logan, X10. See how easy it is for Karens to ruin their kids? Very easy. Soul of Our Country says, she came after other people's children with a knife based on the word of her child? What a Karen would. Twitch, Drew in Georgia, I am mentally ill. You will never catch me Karening.
Yeah.
Ham Salad Dragon 13 says, I would never call anyone the N-word when I'm drunk or sober. The alcohol just lets the true racism flow. Exactly. And the reason why you wouldn't do it if you're drunk or sober is because it's not in you to do it. You're not racist to begin with. Glitteriest Dreadhead. The way she looked at her kid, haha. Yeah, that was priceless at the end when she realized that her kid was just a reflection of her. Yeah. Lisa Agan, maybe? Okay. Love this show. I hope I said it right. Love this show. The doctor is simply brilliant. Great co-host, fantastic Friday tonight.
Yeah.
Great segments, clear analysis, and of course, the bullpen, which is upcoming. Next story. Representative Maxine Waters, she is calling for a federal probe because according to her, there are gangsters in the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. She's not the only one saying it. Representative Maxine Waters on Wednesday requested that the United States Department of Justice investigate allegations that a violent gang of deputies called the Executioners runs operations at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Compton Station. This has been a narrative in LA County for decades. For decades, okay? Who's in charge of them right now? Who's in charge of these so-called gangsters? This guy, Sheriff Alex Villanueva. He's in charge. Now, according to the reports, even 3 total whistleblowers, these gangsters inside of the sheriff's office marked themselves with a particular tattoo after committing an act of violence in order to gain entry. That is the tattoo. The whistleblower, Deputy Ostraberto Gonzalez, said under oath that after a shooting, members will have a party at a bar and call it a 998 debrief. That is a code referencing the code for a deputy involved shooting. Secret groups of deputies with matching tattoos and names like the Vikings, Regulators, 3,000 Boys, and the Banditos have plagued the agency for decades. Here's a snippet of a report that came out not too long ago this year.
CBS News is taking a closer look at the lives lost to alleged gangs within the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department in our special Latina Moms, a Fight for Justice. Several deputies within the East Los Angeles Sheriff's Department claim some Latinos in the department are involved in the so-called Banditos gang. As part of the initiation process, those deputies say the Banditos force potential members to assault or even shoot innocent bystanders. They also claim their targets are often young Latinos in the community. According to a recent study by the Loyola Law School Center for Juvenile Law and Policy, violent groups like the Banditos have been operating for decades with little to no consequences.
Little to no consequences. Once again, Representative Maxine Waters, she is calling for a federal probe. Now, there has been investigations. You've had investigations happen. Absolutely nothing or very little comes from those investigations. There was a victim named Guardado, shot in the back, and the officers involved were simply relieved of duty. The deputies involved in Guardado's shooting, Miguel Vega and Chris Hernandez, were relieved of duty in December in an unrelated case in which a skateboarder says the deputies kidnapped and threatened him before Vega crashed the patrol car, leaving him injured. Gonzalez, who's the whistleblower, identified the pair as prospective members of the executioners, the gang in question. As for Gonzalez, the whistleblower, he's now on leave from the department in fear of his life, he said. His testimony has inspired 2 more deputies to come forward with similar stories of the Compton station. Wait a minute. The whistleblower, Gonzalez, is on leave and in fear of his life. What happened to most of the cops are good cops? You see, if most of the cops are good cops, the bad cops should be afraid. The bad cops should be the ones afraid of what will happen to them, penalty, persecution, prosecution, etc. They should be afraid, but they're not. They're still on the beat. They still got their gun and badge. They're still on the job. But the whistleblower who exposed much of this madness is now in fear of his very life. LA County has paid out at least $55 million in settlements in cases in which sheriff's deputies accused of wrongdoing have been alleged to belong to a secret society. That's according to a report prepared by county attorneys that lists nearly 60 cases, some of them still pending, and names 8 specific cliques.
I mean, you need to remake that, the sheriff's department altogether. Just dismantle it and remake it from the ground up. If you even remake it, I would say, hey, see what happens for a while. My guess is without sheriffs, you might have safer communities out there in Compton and East Los Angeles. Alex Villanueva needs to resign immediately, and local BLM LA organizers have been calling for his resignation. They have been on the front lines of this, taken to the streets, hitting the pavement, and calling it out because the case you just mentioned is one of so many young Black and Latino men here in Los Angeles who have been killed and murdered by the sheriff's department, which is enough already. But number 2 is Villanueva knows that there are gangs in his own department. How do you not know? Of course he knows, right? And then on top of it all, it's not just that there's gangs, they gather together and basically, as we sort of saw in the last video that we talked about, just kind of bro out and pal out about what went down and how it happened. Oh, you were tough. Oh yeah, we killed this guy. They are celebrating, they are rewriting the stories, and there is literally no one holding them to account for these murders of civilians, right? So, I mean, it's just amazing, like the amount of corruption that is involved here. There are steps in the right direction, but look, we passed Measure J here in Los Angeles. It diverted 10% of police funds, general funds, away from the police and towards services. Turns out Measure J is actually being refunneled back in. They're finding some loophole to not actually divert funds to things like mental health services, homelessness services, So it is, there's so much work to do in this city. But my God, it needs to start with just a straight up dismantling of this sheriff's department.
Yeah, and this is why people, myself included, we say defund the police. We say reimagine policing.
Yes.
We don't want it to just be reformed. Y'all been doing that forever. We want it to be completely redone. completely reimagined. They're just too far gone in the LA Sheriff's Office for anybody to think that they will be able to fix this through some kind of new policy or training. And let me say this for the record, because the sheriff has gone on national media talking about this. Sheriff, either you're scared or you're a member of the gang. That's it. It's one or the other. No in between. Next story. There's a Philly cop who has been charged for basically tampering with evidence, okay? Philadelphia police officer Tyree Burnett is now facing charges after deleting a video from a man's phone who he arrested. Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw said Burnett has been on restricted duty since April. The incident happened late March. She plans to dismiss him after the suspension. The body camera betrays him. Here it is.
Step out the vehicle, man. They coming. Stay out the vehicle, man. When they come, I'll get out. Why you gotta get out, man? I got you on camera. Go ahead, grab me again. You ain't even move. You pulled him off. Oh, you got me running right. You that right? Oh, hit me. I ain't touch you. Get out the vehicle, man. Get out the vehicle, man. Y'all serious? Take your man. You about to get sprayed. Yeah, I'm good, sir.
Yo, can I keep your hand? Can I keep it off?
He's a little bit busy right now, sir.
Tell him we can call him. Tell him to take you to the district. We gotta take you to the hospital.
This is all that. We got some.
Or what?
Everything that just transpired.
What's this phone?
This is phone. This is phone.
Hold on. You is that my phone?
I picked the phone up off the ground.
Is my video still in there?
I don't know.
So at the end, another officer says, "Is the video still in there?" You know why? Because he was going to try to cover it up too. But it's interesting that even when the other officer says, "Is the video still in there?" the cop lies. He's all, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
You just deleted it. I mean, you literally took time to delete it. So let me give you some background. The lawyer for Jacob Giddings told CBS Philly last month that Burnett approached his client at a gas station and provided no reason for directing Giddings to get out of his car. Giddings began recording but dropped his phone while getting into the cop car, his lawyer said. Burnett then grabbed the phone and was allegedly caught on his own body cam deleting the video. You saw it for yourself. The Philadelphia Police Department confirms Tyree Burnett is charged with attempted tampering, attempted official oppression, and obstruction of justice. Okay. Initially, Giddings and his legal team planned to file a lawsuit against Burnett for the actions which were caught on the police body camera video. The police department did not comment on the arrest itself. Burnett was a 4-year veteran of the police department. Dante Mills, Giddings' attorney, confirmed at the time. They later recovered Giddings' arrest video from his iCloud account. Here's a screenshot of this dumbass officer. It caught him red-handed, right? Looking exactly into the phone while he's deleting the image. Do they teach this at police academies? I'm sure it's not the first time, and he's not the only one. Okay, but he got caught. But he has now been charged with the crime. Once again, he did it so easily, so quickly, so effortlessly that it is clear to me that this is part of a practice behavior.
Yeah, Absolutely, and just not every cop is as genius as to leave their body cam on while they're doing the deleting. Right. And to be fair, we know that there are many cases where cops won't turn over their body cam footage, right, until months and months later, and that is a whole other laundering process. But I remember a story a few weeks ago about police officers playing music from their phones to try and trigger. I just spit. Woo, I'm sorry. Try and trigger I get very excited. Copyright laws against anyone who would dare, upload a video to YouTube, right? To try and say, oh yeah, Taylor Swift's on there, now we're gonna take it down. I mean, that is something, you don't learn that. That's disgust. They talk about that, right? And this guy wasn't just a low-level officer. I believe he was, a high-ranking. I don't know, what's the high rank? I don't know.
Maybe a sergeant, I don't know.
He was a sergeant. So what do you think is happening behind closed doors? It is everything short of a written down directive to have these different tactics to try and weaponize, to cover up their own actions, to prevent civilians from filming their own arrests. And they've been doing this for so long. I mean, the group Cop Watch, which has done an amazing job following police officers. And they've been brutalized and had their stuff tampered with as well.
Yeah, here's the thing. If you don't want public scrutiny, do not get a job where people use taxes to pay you. That's it. Yeah. That's all you gotta do. All right, thank you so much for being on Indisputable. My dear sister, always a pleasure to have you. Tell people how they can check you out, follow you on social media.
Oh yeah, watch the Vaccination Room, youtube.com/FrannyFio, 5/8 Eastern on Sundays, or listen as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts to the Vaccination Room.
Awesome job, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we got more. Stick and stay, the bullpen is next.
We get animated about the news. Yes, we're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty, I care.
Senator Sanders, I'm gonna do something unusual. I'm gonna ask you a policy question.
Hey, how dare you? That's the problem, you're the problem. Don't ever attack the Republicans. Where the is the liberal media? No, these are all establishment guys. They love the system as it is. They're all enormously rich off the system that exists.
For us, this system isn't working.
So what this campaign is about is trying to create an economy that works not only for the people on top, but works for all Americans.
We're gonna rock the boat. We're gonna be counter-establishment. We're gonna tell people the truth to the best of our abilities, and we're gonna keep it real with them.
I missed you guys. I was born to be eccentric.
As soon as we figured out Instagram, they were like, can't use that anymore. The old people have it.
Luckily, I'm mostly happy. Everything about Wiener Schnitzel is funny.
Can we thank Cuck Schumer just so that we can say Cuck Schumer?
If you and me pop up on TikTok, there's gonna be like a creeper alert throughout TikTok.
I'm gonna do the rest of the show this way. It's a better look for me.
Did you watch any of Bridgerton?
Yeah, and obviously I stopped watching after 5 minutes.
There is a secret British female inside me. Welcome to old school. Let's give the people what they want.
How in the world are you gonna get the right to vote if you don't already have the right to vote? That's impossible. Reason they tell you things are impossible is because they don't want you to try. It only took 7 years for them to get an amendment to get a right to vote.
Does this result in millions upon millions of Americans losing their coverage? And we've been waiting to find out, and now we know, yes, it will cut millions.
Public education was supposed to be the way to equalize everyone regardless of their socioeconomic status. But if you come from a family that's poor, how are you gonna afford grade school for your kids?
This fight is about fairness and morality. It's about the American values.
You the country, in every city, were all lying when they said the police abuse us and the police kill us when they should. No, of course they weren't lying. Yes, it does happen. Yes, they do get targeted more.
Why are we going to put immigrants in prison for 5 years, which American taxpayers have to pay for, if we're so concerned with immigrants using up our so-called resources?
We're gonna do both. We're gonna fight Trump and we're gonna fight the establishment. It is not that hard. Yes, you can do both at the same time. Go tell them.
ShopTYT.com has new shirts like this one. And you're thinking, Cenk, what is that one? I can't see it other than the black. Yes, so I'll show it to you. If you can read this, you're not practicing social distancing. Yes! Now, you were practicing social distancing. This is over video. But overall, you get it. ShopTYT.com.
All right, welcome back to Indisputable. Let me read some of these viewer comments. We got a lot of them. TYT member Craig Souffle says, I believe aspects of what Waters is alleging because ever since Villanueva has been in his position, the LASD department has changed for the absolute worst. Wow. Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon, agree with Waters, but it's not just that police department, it's countrywide. Yeah. Super chat. Goonidley. I think I said that right. Dr. Richie, you don't mince words. You're neither him nor her. You're a gentleman to your debate partners, and it's so wonderful. Thank you so much, man. And thank you as well. Tempest Parham says, and I think I said that right. Parham. Again, shocked? Nope. Stephen Miles Cook. Not one good cop stopped him? Exactly. Where are all of these good cops? Twitch, Z Huddle, regardless of whether or not he deleted the video, which he clearly did, he didn't have a warrant to look at the guy's phone. Another abuse. Jax Drax, police abuse the misconduct, and misconduct always hurts the taxpayers and rarely affects the police. Sharpie Diesel, so when will it be appropriate for the DOJ to start investigating our police departments? Okay, good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bullpen. He's back. I have Shelley Winter, conservative, black conservative, radio personality, 95.5 WSB, word on the street, host. Shelley, welcome.
How are you, my brother? And before we get into our back and forth, I just want to say how proud I am of you, and that's heartfelt. I love you, brother. God bless you. Congratulations, and know that your successes inspire all of us. So God bless you.
Bless you, brother, and thank you for that sentiment. I love you back, my dear friend. I hope you feel the same after this debate.
I hope you feel the same.
You know, you said some common sense things on the record. And some things I completely disagree with. I don't know what you think about the Texas Senate Bill 3, 18-4, that would stop the mandate of teaching the KKK as morally wrong, and also providing more restrictions to civil rights education. That includes the movement in the 60s and other movements as well. What are your thoughts about this bill and bills similar?
I'm a conservative. See, I'm a true conservative. Understand, I'm not necessarily a Republican, I'm a conservative.
Okay.
And I don't think the government should play any role in legislating what can and cannot be taught from that aspect. In other words, I don't believe the government should step in and force a school system to teach CRT or not teach CRT. I think that should be left up to the teachers and the individual teachers in the classroom. If you're a teacher that teaches social studies, you lay out your curriculum based on whatever history and social studies you want to teach. So I don't think the Texas legislature should be in a position, I don't think conservatives should be allowing or should be comfortable with any government body, particularly a legislature, which is so far removed from the educational system because none of them are really teachers. They're lawyers and many of them are just business owners. So I think that I don't agree with it from that standpoint. As far as the actual subjects being taken away, I mean, of course we know that's probably absurd, but it's absurd because it's politicians entering into the arena of education and what can and cannot be taught. Are you going to teach about the Black Panthers? Are you going to teach about Huey Newton? Are you going to teach about Nat Turner? I'd like to see you teach about those things if you're going to teach about all the other. I mean, I feel like government should not enter into the educational realm to tell teachers what they can and cannot teach by law. That's problematic for me as a conservative.
Okay, so you make some interesting points here, and I think we definitely have some common ground. Let me first say for the record, because every time I hear CRT, I have to say for the record, critical race theory is an advanced theoretical framework, and it is not taught in K through 12 education.
Actually, that's not true. It has entered into educational systems. It has. I don't want to take it down.
Go ahead. No. Present your case,
I'm not even. It's a red. No. It's no case to be made. It is entering into school systems. Is it being taught as? No, hold on. Is it being taught the same way in which? Is it being taught the same way in which Dr. Derek Bell? In the modern frame of it, brought it into fruition in the 70s as a legal theory and a sociological theory? No, it's absolutely
then it's
not
being critical
taught.
Race theory. If it's not taught, if it's not being taught, listen to me, Shelley.
We know. I don't want to argue because
that's fine, brother. But I'm going to respond. Come on, Shelley.
What you're going to say,
brother.
No,
brother. You don't know what I'm going to say, but I'm still going to say it.
I've heard you say it to several others.
Okay, we're gonna listen to it again then.
I watch your show, so I know what you're gonna say. My point is, no one's teaching theory.
No one's gonna stop me from saying it.
No, I'm just saying, no, I'm not sitting here. I just don't want you to think I'm sitting here saying that anyone's teaching theory, whether it's critical race, mathematical, physics theory, any theory to third graders. That's what I want you to understand that I did not say.
Here's what I will say to that, because you all continue to conflate the reality.
I just told you I'm not.
Just because you can identify some race relationship in the context of the curriculum does not make it critical race theory. That's like saying algebra is calculus. No, it is not. You're either learning algebra,
it's a horrible analogy,
or you're learning calculus.
It's still math.
It's still math.
It's still math.
Listen to me, brother.
Algebra,
critical race, sir.
It's still math.
Okay, you said that 3 times.
I know.
Critical race theory is different than teaching race relations or the civil rights movement or the KKK. Now,
I said that.
Let's go directly.
I totally agree with that.
Thank you.
I established that when I said we're not teaching theory to third graders.
Right.
I established that.
Which makes it not critical race theory that you're teaching. Now,
it makes it algebra and calculus being math. Go ahead, brother.
No, sir. Let's go to Senate Bill 3. I know you tried, brother. I give you an E for effort.
No, I did it.
Let's go.
I did it.
Let's go to Senate Bill 3. You're laughing at your damn self. Let's go to Senate Bill 3.
I'm laughing at you.
Okay. All right. This policy, 18-4. The only reason why it's not going to the House is because Democrats left the state to stop the quorum for the voter restriction bill, all right? So that was a fundamental disagreement based on a policy issue. They left the state to stop the quorum. While they were gone, the Senate passed this Senate Bill 3. I just want to make sure I'm very clear about what Senate Bill 3 does. There are two parts to it. I'm going to talk about the most egregious part, in my opinion. The most egregious part is that one, it stops the mandating of the teaching of the KKK. It stopped. There was a mandated curriculum, or currently still is, unless they change the law, that you got to teach the KKK, and obviously you have to teach it in the context of the immoral activity of the Klan. The bill says, one, you're no longer mandated to teach it. And then it says, however, if you choose to, if you decide to teach this controversial subject, which is not controversial, but if you teach it, you cannot give deference of a particular perspective. Meaning you cannot call what the KKK did and who they are and their activities morally reprehensible.
So here's what I would say.
Okay.
Here's what if I was a Democrat in Texas, I would say, okay, I'm all for that. Let's do the same thing. No, listen, hear me out.
Okay.
I would say to them, see, the problem is most Democrats don't know how to fight Republicans. I would say, yes, let's do that. I'm all for that. Let's do the same thing for the Nazis. Let's do the same thing for communism. And let's do the same thing for every other. Well, don't shake your head. I'm making the analogy.
I just disagree.
Well, I'm making the analogy that challenge the Republicans to say the Nazis should be treated the same way as the KKK. That's what I'm making the analogy. I'm saying you're making an argument against people that clearly are doing something it's so silly from an educational standpoint. It's not about racism. It's about what's good about education. How can you not teach something that actually happened in history and a group of people that actually changed the path of history? So if you're going to, my point would be, if I'm a Democrat, I would go back to the Republicans and say, absolutely, what a great idea. Let's include the Nazis in that. Let's not teach about World War II. Let's teach about World War II without the Nazis.
Yeah, and let me tell you, and I understand your point of view. So I'm not saying I don't understand where you're coming from and what you're trying to accomplish. My only issue is these folks aren't playing games at all. Like, they are literally trying to take the moral argument out of the argument about racism in America. That's what they're trying to do. Now, let me finish, brother. I've been an educator for a number of years. You know this, I was a high school educator and became a professor. One of the great benefits of education is the moral development of the student. And if you're not teaching, especially social sciences and history, with a moral or a values core, then that teaching will always remain problematic, because now you're not developing the individual, or they don't have the tools to develop themselves in a moral or ethical way based on these teachings and based on the context provided. But you and I agree on the bigger point. The bigger point is, and I'm glad you said it the way you said it, they really shouldn't be involved in this. So let me go back to something that happened in your party, brother, because you are, and I got to say this for everyone watching, you are truly a purist conservative. Now, we will always fundamentally disagree on most policy, but there was a time in the conservative movement when you all preached a doctrine of smaller government. You all preached the doctrine of less government intrusion. And then something happened to where you all decided we're going to cherry pick big government and small government anytime we choose. So now you literally have a big government takeover of school jurisdictions, of school boards, of what a superintendent can and cannot do. You all have such a government takeover happening that literally school teachers who were typically left off limits. I mean, hell, everybody who's running for political office on both sides of the political equator would say, we want to make sure our school teachers are taken care of, right? It was one of the very few, even though there was political nuance in that, it was one of the very few topics that we could all generally agree on. Now, you all are being so dogmatic in your governmental intrusion and taking over smaller governments that you're willing to do it by way of statute, by way of law, not by way of guidance. And I think Kemp, Republican governor in Georgia, he didn't do it by law, he did it by guidance. He said, hey, it's a good idea not to do these things, but they didn't go and create a law for it. He's a Republican, a very conservative guy. How did your party get to this space, and how do you change it?
I think the party got to this space because the world changed around them. I don't agree with the space they've gotten to, but I understand how they got to that space. When you talk about teachers being those people that were largely left alone, you're right. They were largely left alone, but they didn't largely stay out of politics. So when you have a teachers union that gives 99% of their dollar donations on a national, federal, and state level, and even local level to Democrats, Republicans can't fight that because the money's going. So, not to say that that's right or wrong or anything, but to say that education has largely stayed out of politics because it's always about the kids. Well, when education started getting political, there was always going to be a natural pushback to that, and that's what you're seeing. Do I agree with the manner in which that pushback is happening from my side of the fence? Absolutely not. But however, I do understand that pushback coming because when you see people, and you talked about teaching the morality of the student, well, it depends on whose morals you're talking about because morals aren't necessarily, and I understand the key word being necessarily, universal. So yes, you're right in what you're talking about teaching morals, but I think also it boils down to whose morals are being taught. But that being aside, I've got to say education has become tremendously political, and I think that also is a problem because to your point, you've been a long-time educator, it should be always only about the children, not about who wins or loses an election, but it should always be about children.
Let me help you out with your analogy. Just because something becomes politicized does not mean it is inherently political. So what you're talking about is a policy agenda of these various unions. Now you're incorrect on your numbers, not 99%. They still do give to Republicans roughly 30%.
You understand my point,
right?
Overwhelmingly Democrat.
The majority typically will go to a Democratic public official or one seeking office as a Democrat. Now the reason why they're able to do this is because they have a policy first agenda. Do they have a special interest? Of course they do. A political PAC or a union is a special interest operation. They are supposed to have a special interest. They are designed and designated to have a special interest.
I never said that. Hold on. I never said that.
Let me finish.
I'm just saying. Understand? We get into this a lot when we talk. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm establishing.
I'm saying
the
it's
pushback.
Right.
Well, that's fine. I'm telling you, you asked me a question first, and I was establishing my answer to
But you finished your answer, brother. It was my turn, brother.
But you were taking my answer and twisting it around.
Brother, you could have responded. No, I wasn't. I was just telling you what I believed.
Oh, okay. That's how our conversations go now. You take what I say and twist it around and say
brother,
that's what I believe.
I'm responding to what you said.
But I didn't say that.
Twisting the words.
You did. You're telling
brother,
me why these people have PACs, and I'm saying education based on your own definition.
I'm not twisting your words, brother. I'm just giving you some factual context, and the factual context is
that Democrats, that the educational apparatus in this country has not become a Democrat partner and give most of their money to the Democrat side. So the response would be, from the Republicans to take over education.
Shelley, here's how it works. Brother, when I allow you to talk, you allow me to talk, all right, brother? Yeah. So here's the thing. The policy agenda has remained similar, but not the same as it relates to educators. Typically, in most of your political action committees or your unions, you have a voting apparatus. You have conferences, you have a voting apparatus. You have a way in which the sentiment of the educators can be understood by the leadership of these particular groups, right? I'm a member of the American Association of University Professors. We are able to say, here's what we think is happening in education, here's what we like, here's what we don't like, right? And we're able to push the agenda that way. Now, at the end of that, we still have people that agree and disagree, right? But we represent a majority in the leadership. Now, just because Democrats are more willing to walk the political agenda of this policy group does not mean that they are now simply picking sides. How did it really work? Because I promise you, brother, if Republicans would have listened to the education unions and said, we're down with that. We're gonna go ahead and do A, B, and C. We can't give you the rest, but we'll give you this. If they would have been down with it, then these unions would be giving them more money. These unions would be more willing to have these conversations. It is because Republicans decided to take a position that was antithetical to the progress of education. And man, you can't tell me that these school teachers, you can't tell me these school teachers who are the members of these groups are not doing this for the children. You can't tell me that. The people who are not doing it for the children are the bureaucrats and politicians making the laws.
I said that, but come on, Rashad. Anybody watching this will say I said that. I'm simply telling you.
Yeah, but you can't say.
But hold on. You said, now, did you just go through a whole screed about letting each other talk? All right, it's my turn now.
Go ahead, brother.
So my point is that you asked me why the Republicans got to this point, and I answered that by saying I don't agree with the point they got to, but I understand how they got there because education has become politicized. And so my point to you is, if it is about the children, then for instance, unions wouldn't be against school choice. If it was about the children, unions would say, hey, let the parents decide where to send their kids, if it were about the children. So when education becomes politicized to the point where you're pushing policies that only benefit your union, which is completely natural, that's why you have a union, then you see parents and legislatures fighting back. But let me ask you this, on the reverse, since you talked about the union and the teachers and the professors and all of that stuff, how do we know that the Ku Klux Klan bill in Texas wasn't asked for by Republican voters, and the legislators are not responding to their voters the same way in which a PAC is responding to the members of the teachers union? And I'm just throwing that out there as a hypothetical.
Sure, because the vast majority of Texans are actually against the policy.
Then they won't pass it. That's what happens.
See, wait a minute, that's not, no, brother. Texas has passed policies that were adversarial to the public sentiment of Texans. Let me give you one example.
Give me an example.
When they passed constitutional carry. Constitutional carry was only approved by roughly, I think, 47% of the population. It was under 50 is my point.
Right.
But they still passed it. They still passed. You don't need to get a permit. Let me finish. You don't need to get a permit. You don't need to get a license to carry a gun. It was also opposed by every major law enforcement outfit in Texas. It was opposed by them as well, because law enforcement said, we don't need this headache in how we do law enforcement, but they still passed it. So literally, not only did they not have public sentiment, their typical allies were adversarial to the bill, and they still passed the damn bill, brother. So you can't say it's gonna be automatic just based on public sentiment.
No, okay, fair enough in that example. And I'm sure those people that voted for that will pay that price. That's how politics work. They will pay that price for passing that bill. So you eventually pay a price for passing things that are against not only your most loyal constituent.
I got you, that's a political price.
Public sentiment.
But before that political price is paid, brother, there's a people price that's paid. And that's the argument that I make.
The reason why that law is even brought up in the first place is that people prices been being paid for a long time before. So now they're going overboard to try and let people protect themselves from the people who have been taking other people's prices. So, you know, I mean, we know that people price has been paid before that law came along.
Brother, I'm flat out of time, man. Always a pleasure to have you.
Love you, brother. Congratulations again.
Thank you, brother. I love you back, man.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to have a great weekend, number one, all right? Remember this, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take care of this planet. And remember, the truth is always indisputable.